Welcome, everybody, to the City of Farmers Branch Council meeting for Tuesday, February 18th. If you would, please stand and join me in our invocation and pledges. Heavenly Father, we gathered here tonight to transact business for the city. We ask your blessing upon this council. We also ask your blessing upon our residents, our first responders, including our police officers and our firefighters and EMTs. Help us to make the best decisions that will serve the benefit of all of our community. And remember, we were asking your blessing as we put service above self. In your name, amen. Amen. If you will join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. So first of all, before we get started with our ceremonial items this evening, I want to say Councilman Jackson's not with us this evening because he is a new grandfather. And so our congratulations go out to him. New granddaughter just came in just a little while ago, and so he's with his daughter attending to that. At this time, I'm going to invite Missy Dewars. Is she here? There she is. I didn't see you. To come up and do the presentation for item G1.
Yeah. Hello. On behalf of the City of Farmers Branch City Council, I am honored to recognize and present the ceremonial item to Carol Digman for the 2025 Witness History Award. At the January 23rd, 2025 Historical Preservation and Restoration Board meeting, the board voted unanimously to recognize Carol Digman as the resident recipient of the award of the Witness to History Award. This award was created to recognize long-term Farmers Branch resident or organization that have contributed to the city of Farmers Branch in an outstanding manner. To qualify for the Witness to History Award, the individual must reside in Farmers Branch for 50 years or more, and award winners are selected based on their significant contribution to the city. Carol Digman has called Farmers Branch home for almost 50 years. Her involvement with the community began in 1978 when she served on the city's Zoning Board of Adjustments and Building Code Board of Appeals, and then the Farmers Branch Planning and Zoning Commission in the late 70s into the early 80s. Carol then became city council member in 1981, serving until 1987. After her service on the city council, she served on the charter committee in 2013 and 2016, and most recently served on the Historical Preservation and Restoration Board from 2016 to 2020, where she was instrumental in finalizing the strategic plan and gaining approval for the Venue 1842 Event Center. Carol has helped make Farmers Branch an astounding city through her contributions as a city council member, board member, Carrollton Farmers Branch Rotary International Club member, mentor for Carrollton Farmers Branch ISD School, student, and member of the Farmers Branch Women's Club. She's also a well-respected, talented artist, having won multiple art shows and contestants through the area. So let's welcome her, Carol.
No one achieves anything alone. I want to thank the Farmers Branch Historical Park and Preservation Board and the City Council for choosing me to receive the Witness to History Award this year. Thanks also goes to mayors, councils, and city staff I worked with as an elected and appointed official over the years. I'll always remember when I was first elected and came to my first council meeting in 1981. One councilman's first words to me were, "Why aren't you home with your children?" At that time, they were ages 10 and 7. The city manager at that time said he refused to work for a woman and would not meet with me one on one. He retired shortly after my election. Thank goodness times have changed since then. I am thankful for my children, now middle aged, and my husband who have supported me through good times and bad. And I think they will still continue to do that. I am happy to report that my election opened the door for women on Farmers Branch City Council. I was followed by Councilwomen Calla Davis, Nancy Hardy, Junie Smith, Michelle Holmes, Ana Reyes, Cristal Ratana, Tracy Williams, and our current councilwoman, Tina Bennett Burton. My regret is that we have mostly only had one woman at a time on the council, and we never, and I have it in capital letters, had a woman mayor. I believe we're the only city in North Texas that hasn't had a woman mayor. I thank all the very capable women who have served or are serving on our city boards and city council. Any one of you is capable of being the mayor of Farmers Branch. Thank you. Just a second. Too much is going on here. All right. Oh, and if anybody would like to see this, when I was councilwoman, Chief David Hale gave me my very own police badge that says councilwoman.
Kenneth, come on in. Our next award is the presentation of 2025 Witness to History Award to Messina Shoe Repair. So on behalf of the City Council, I'm honored to recognize and present this award to you. Plus, I'm a customer.
That's right.
Okay. At the November 14, 2024 Historical Park or Historical Preservation and Restoration Board meeting, the board voted unanimously to recognize Messina Shoe Repair as the business or organization recipient of the Witness to History Award. This award was created to recognize longtime Farmers Branch residents and or businesses or organizations that have contributed to the city of Farmers Branch in an outstanding manner. To qualify for the Witness to History Award, a business or organization must reside in Farmers Branch for 50 years or more, and award winners are selected based on their significant contribution to the city. Messina Shoe Repair is a family-owned business by Kenneth Burks. The meticulous shoe repair trade was passed down from Joe Messina to his brother Louis, and then to his nephew Kenneth. Louis first opened the shop in 1962 and 2 years later sold it to Kenneth, aka the Shoe Kid, making Messina Shoe Repair one of the oldest businesses in Farmers Branch. Messina began by repairing boots, shoes, handbags, and later expanded to selling new boots. In 1986, they were the first store in North Texas to sell SAS shoes. Children who came to the shop with their parents are now coming back as adults. Today, they still repair, refurbish, and sell new shoes, boots, uh, and handbags, and provide a large selection of boutique items. For 63 years, Messina Shoe Repair has been a staple in the Farmers Branch community. They participated in Farmers Branch Day, driving an antique car in the parade. They've witnessed many changes and growth in our city and the countless residents that have lived here. So, again, it's my pleasure to present you as our Business Witness to History Award recipient.
Thank you.
Carol, we had an award for you too, so you need to get a picture with that.
All right.
Yeah.
And I have the board here, if the board like to come up.
That's so nice.
Terry, how are you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here for the presentation from the Texas Recreation and Park Society North Region to the City of Farmers Branch Historical Park for the 2024 Excellence in Programming, Recreation, and Aquatics Award. So on behalf of the City of Farmers Branch City Council, I am honored to recognize and present the ceremonial item to the Farmers Branch Historical Park for the 2024 Excellence in Programming, Recreations, and Aquatics Award. The Historical Park received the Excellence in Programming Award for their sold-out, wait list only charcuterie board. I've been practicing that. Charcuterie board class, which is held twice a year. In May, it's focusing on summer entertaining, and in November, focusing on the holidays. This class was created and led by self-taught staff members in response to a recognized need for engaging adult-only programming that not only generated revenue, but also provided educational and enjoyable experiences. The class consists of a history of charcuterie, a board slideshow, a charcuterie supplies display, and a hands-on demonstration. Attendees then create their own edible masterpiece. Staff identified a gap in the market for creative hands-on activities tailored for adults that combined nurturing creativity with social interaction. By focusing on charcuterie, a popular and visually appealing culinary trend, the program sought to attract participants looking for both practical skills and a pleasurable social event while also contributing to the historical park's revenue goals, filling a niche for both educational and profitable programming. So, I'm not sure who's going to be accepting the award. There we go.
Thank you very much.
Either one of you want to say anything?
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, here you go. Here's, and actually, you can each have one. You brought spares. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to present the Employee of the Month Award for December on behalf of the City Council and staff. I'd like to ask Officer Dunn to come forward, Chief and Assistant Chief, if they care to come forward. So it's my honor to recognize Officer Michael Dunn as our Employee of the Month for December. And since joining the police department in July of 2006, Michael has consistently demonstrated dedication, compassion, and care for those around him. Over the years, Michael has been commended for numerous acts of service that reflect his commitment to the community. These include assisting a family involved in a car accident by ensuring they reached a safe hotel and providing his contact information for further help, participating in the Metro Crest Police Memorial Service in 2011, spending countless hours locating a missing son for a worried mother, recovering multiple stolen weapons and preventing their distribution, and being recognized by a citizen for going above and beyond to assist the stranded motorist. He also helped a family secure a hotel room after their home was damaged by a fire, demonstrating his care and compassion. In 2016, Michael also received an Excellence in Performance Award for his outstanding services in the line of duty. Most recently, this past Christmas, Michael went above and beyond once again by preparing and delivering dinner for 2 patrol shifts working on the holiday. His thoughtful gesture provided comfort to his colleagues and boosted their morale, ensuring those on duty felt appreciated and supported even while away from their families. Michael's actions exemplify our core values of respect, excellence, accountability, care, and trust. And his impact to the department and this community is immeasurable. This recognition only begins to reflect the depth of his contributions to the city. Michael, thank you for your unwavering commitment and dedication, and congratulations on this well-deserved award. It's up to you. If you'd like to say you can, feel free.
No, I've been in the city for a long time, and it's a great honor to be here to get this award. I know it's not given out to everybody, but it's a great department to be in. I've given everything with love and support for the city for a long time, and many more years to come. And I just appreciate the support and everything from the city across the board. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sorry, real quick before pictures. Kevin McCoy, Chief of Police. Mike is very humble, and he won't pat himself on the back for the hard work that he does every day. But he's one of the core people that keep this organization performing at the level that it performs at. He cares, truly cares about the people of this community, and he has done it for years and years, and hopefully for years more. He's also a highly contributing member of our SWAT team and has been for years, and a leader in that capacity. He's the quiet leader that we as chiefs all want inside of our organizations. He's the guy that you can give a job to and know it'll get done. And just as recently as last week, when we were going through our reaccreditation with the state and the assessors wanted to ride out, we put him in the car with Mike because we knew he was the reflection of the department that we wanted the assessors to see when they were looking to see what type of organization that we are. That's the kind of guy that he is. And Mike, you deserve this award many times over, but thank you for all you do on a daily basis. You're one of the great ones. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm presenting for the Employee of the Month for January of 2025. Brittany Avila, will you come down?
Dana.
It's an honor to stand here today and recognize someone truly exceptional. I know I'm short. I'm sorry. For the past 3 years, Brittany has served as code enforcement with unwavering dedication, professionalism, and a heart for the community. Code enforcement requires patience, diligence, and balancing regulations with compassion, and Brittany excels at this every day. Her commitment to upholding community standards is matched by her outstanding customer service. Whether assisting residents Guiding property owners or working with colleagues, Brittany approaches her every situation with respect and genuine willingness to help. Brittany's care for our residents shines in everything she does. One example was Brittany saw an elderly resident at City Hall struggling to get out of the building to pay her water bills or into the building. Brittany helped her pay the bill without getting out of the car, always shows care for the residents of Farmers Branch, and we always appreciate her. Brittany's ability to turn challenges into opportunities and ensure everyone feels heard and respected is admirable. She is also an incredible coworker, a team player with a positive attitude and a strong work ethic who inspires everyone around her. Brittany, we thank you for your dedication, passion, and commitment to excellence. You set the standard for what it means to be a great public servant, and we're grateful that we have you on our team. Let's all take a moment to congratulate and celebrate Brittany, an outstanding officer, colleague, and community advocate. Congratulations. Go ahead. Can you take a picture, Steve? No, you say something.
Sorry, came with the speech here. Got a little speech for us. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Large print. I'm
You have
tired. It's been a long day at work.
you have a minute.
I have a minute. That's not what Daniel told me. That's not what Daniel told me. All right. I just want to say hello, Mayor, Council, colleagues, friends, all of my residents. Mayor Wasina out there. I see you guys. I appreciate everyone being here. You could be out in the cold at the market getting your bread for your sandwiches tomorrow. Thank you for staying. Appreciate that. But on a serious note, a huge thank you to the man above for letting me wake up and come into work today. To my mom for investing and instilling in me generosity over selfishness, and to my partner for the patience, because when I leave and I clock out, this does not turn off. I'm sorry. It does not. I'm going all the time. Trust me. To my friends back home watching and my mom, appreciate you guys for encouraging me to move, even if that meant going to a totally different state. And here I am. How long do I have? 15 minutes? I should have another 15 minutes, right, Daniel? 15 minutes? Thank you. And to the residents, most importantly, this is why I'm here, to serve you guys. And I appreciate you guys always welcoming me into the neighborhoods, being able to see you, talk to you. I talked to you last week, talk to you all the time. Mark, Debbie, everybody here. We're on the same. We'll talk about it later. Thank you. And everybody here for always pouring your knowledge into me, your time, your wisdom. It does not go unnoticed. You have all filled my cup, and obviously it's overflowing with everyone here tonight, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All righty. Well, I would like to thank my fellow council members for helping out tonight. I think it's important that everybody have the opportunity to be down there and take the microphone and present these awards, because we all share in this. So next up are items of community interest.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you very much. We've got several interesting events coming up. There is a strategic planning session that kicks off the budget process. And believe it or not, we'll be kicking off this budget process with a City Council strategic planning session on February the 25th. This is an all-day planning session, and it's the first step in the fiscal year budget process and will help guide future budget priorities. And all community members are welcome to attend right here at City Hall. Second, it's tax season, and with that, there's a Property Tax 101 workshop coming up. Farmers Branch property owners are invited to a Property Tax 101 workshop with the Dallas County Tax Office and Dallas Central Appraisal District on Thursday, March the 6th. Now, representatives from both agencies will be on site to speak with property owners and present information on the Texas property tax system, how and when to protest your property valuation, how and when to pay your property taxes. We have another event. The Senior Advisory Board is sponsoring Viva Fiesta. This festive event is set for Friday, March 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Community Recreation Center. We invite you to be a part of an exciting afternoon filled with fun, laughter, and meaningful connections. Sponsored by the Senior Advisory Board, this is a free event for residents 50 plus. Excuse me. But registration is required and space is limited. So please contact Jennifer Stone for assistance at 972 919 8742. The annual library bookmark contest is coming up at the Mansky Library. Patrons of all ages are invited to submit an original bookmark design to go along with 2025's upcoming summer reading theme, Color Our World. Entry forms will be available at the library starting March 1st and must be returned by March 31st. All entries will be displayed in the library during National Library Week in April, and a winner from each age group will be selected. And finally, we would like to welcome our new finance director, Leanne Huddleston. She comes to us with 40 years of experience as a CFO and finance director of multiple municipalities of varying sizes. So, welcome.
Yep. All righty, thank you. Next up are our citizen comments. Before we call up speakers, I will say there's an item on consent this evening, Resolution 2025-036, adopting rules of procedure and decorum for public comments during city council meetings. I want to provide some important background for the public, highlighting why we believe these proposed rules are necessary and how they will benefit our community. Recently, certain individuals have used public comment portion of our meetings to engage in disruptive and unacceptable behavior, including making discriminatory and personally offensive remarks about individuals and groups based on their personal characteristics. These city council meetings are a limited forum focused on conducting city business, including public observation and respectful discourse on matters important to our community. This council will not tolerate disruptive behavior by members of the public, especially behavior intended to discriminate against, defame, intimidate, or personally attack any person or group of people. To address this, we have worked with the city attorney to prepare rules of procedures and decorum for public comments during our meetings, ensuring compliance with state and federal law. This agenda item presents these proposed rules for consideration, and if adopted, they will apply to all future meetings of the City Council. We value public input and encourage residents to share their concerns with us and the city staff through the many avenues available, including in person, online, and through the FBTX mobile app. I don't have anybody signed up to speak tonight. Has anybody not turned in a form? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda.
Mayor, before we proceed, can we go ahead and pull J4? I think that was an item that's on study session for discussion. Can we just pull it off of the consent and put it on a regular agenda and discuss it there?
Item J4, we will take that, and that will move to regular agenda L1.
And then with that, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the modification that J4 will be moved to the regular agenda.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Thank you. If you would, please indicate your vote accordingly. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next up are our public hearings. First item is K1, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting ordinance 3902 for a zoning amendment for a multifamily development on approximately 10.59 acres located at 1990 Whittington Place within Plan Development District number 88 and take appropriate action.
Hello, Perla Tavera, Director of Economic Development, Tourism, and Planning. I'm here to present public hearing 1990 Whittington. This property currently has 10.58 acres. Zoned plan development currently is PD 88, existing 3-story office building. Excuse me. We're planning to do a zoning amendment to mid-density residential, total of 472 units. Here's a conceptual site plan that was submitted. Conceptual development, conceptual building elevations. And so this is part of the comprehensive 2045 comprehensive plan. We're recommended for high density. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We had 39 zoning notification letters were mailed to surrounding property areas. Also, we published in the Dallas Morning News, and no correspondence has been received. Please note, on December 9th, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval on vote 4-2. If you have any questions, we also have the applicant here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll start with Councilman Roman.
I don't have any questions. I do have some questions for the applicant.
Okay.
I will have the applicant come. We have Lucy Billings.
Lucy Billingsley, 1722 Ruth Street, Dallas. Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here. I think it's important to share a little bit of the background. I know she shared some of it, posting, and we had a meeting with planning and zoning and how that went. But I think what hasn't been shared is your efforts in interacting with the residents out there and with the HOA and kind of what came from that meeting. I think that's important to touch base on.
Certainly. After the meeting with P&Z, we met with the residents and representatives of the HOA. It was a good discussion. We were able to share our elevations, our plans, our circumstance. And I'm happy to give the history on our circumstance if helpful. There are many questions. First off, can the building be preserved? Can the building be converted to other uses? What other impacts might there be from what we want to bring forward? Some people were very interested in retail and how can they get more retail to benefit the neighborhood. Our answers to those questions, and just the ones I tossed out, were that the use and the office use, we think is pretty next to impossible. The existing tenants have had it on the market for several years for way below market rate. We knew when the city voted many years ago to change this district from urban to single family and multifamily residential, that the ability for this office to succeed on the long term would be lost. We didn't know how fast that would happen, and certainly we didn't know that our tenant would take bankruptcy twice and then file to leave the building. We also shared with them that we studied converting this very building into multifamily, and it is wildly expensive and delivers homes with inward views that were not appealing. The other discussion on traffic, and we have our traffic consultants here, so if anyone would like to ask them more particular questions, an office building generates a great deal more traffic than the residential, and this particular office building has 2 shifts of it's a security company, so they cannot have a desk be unmanned. So they have a double traffic whammy. So the multifamily gives a great reduction to any office, but also to this particular one in an extreme way. There's discussion about amenities and what might we be doing on our side of the lake. That's something we're really interested in discussing and have asked the HOA to send out a survey. We've got first 17 responses back just today about amenities, but those ideas are many, but it's connecting the trail system all the way around. Their desire for pickleball courts. Several people mentioned retail. Our location's not really on a big corner, so we don't have the retail opportunity, but there's a great deal of desire for a coffee shop and some amenities of that nature. So we look forward to really getting in more answers to the survey and saying, how can we make this whole land and lake be a very rich experience? And with the first phase, we'll be connecting our side of the trail all the way through and around.
Thank you for that. And to be also clear, the amenities that you guys are talking about, these are amenities that will be privately owned by your company and maintained by your company, not by the city.
Correct. They'll be the courtyards, enclosed courtyards are private access, but everything else is open to the public. And one of the things we've talked about is being able to put a deck over the water so people can have a little bit of that experience as well. But these on our properties would be our expense, and unless you want to join in, that's right.
Thank you, thank you. Now, the other thing is, are you still planning on doing on Whittington townhomes so that they're a little bit more consistent with what's going to be across the street, which is townhomes?
And that's exactly right. We like having like property looking at like. And so on several streets we have townhomes, but certainly on Whittington.
Okay. And then also just for just some context about this piece of property in relation to what's going to be around it. You're proposing that this is going to be a multifamily development so that it would be contiguous with what's around it. The remaining open parcels of land that you own are already zoned for multifamily.
That's right. And we've designed it so that the connectivity between all of these phases becomes a neighborhood. So it's not like one's off and another's very different. They're very pedestrian related and connected and with shared amenities.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Bennett.
It may be for her. So what is the timeline, the beginning and the end? When are we anticipating seeing dirt turn, basically?
Our existing tenant has told us that they might want to stay a few more months, which would maybe go to the August. We would then move towards the demolition of the building. That would take about 7 weeks. And we've been studying that whole process in depth because that's also a concern, dust and noise. So that'll be in coordination with the city and the HOA as to that process. Our design process will, if we're able to move forward, our design process will take about 7 months. So we would anticipate starting construction on the residential portion Q2 to Q3 of 2026.
And the completion?
First residents would be able to move in 14 months later, and the completion would be within 2 years, 26 months of commencement. So 26, 27, 28, everybody would be totally done.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Reed.
Hey, Lucy, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I was at the HOA meeting that Billingsley Company made their presentation to, and the residents, I think the biggest question that they had was the traffic, their biggest concern. And that was able to be resolved because of the study, by the study that you presented, that actually there's going to be less traffic than if it were a fully functional commercial building. So I think that alleviated a lot of concerns of the folks in the area. And then the additional amenities, I think, will be a positive. You had brought up retail, and I know given the location, like you said, it's not on a corner. It's not it's not convenient to through traffic. One of the benefits will be by increasing the density there. There's other areas local to that could be more attractive to retail entities.
Right.
So that's going to be a huge boon for that, to bring the retail exposure that folks on the west side have been clamoring for. So I think this will be a benefit in regards to getting that process started as well.
Certainly, and some of the residents pointed that out. And one suggestion from the HOA today was food trucks. I don't know the city's policy about that, but that's a way to help, that we can again help bring energy and services.
Great idea. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Neal.
Hi, Ms. Billingsley, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Just a few questions. I understand that there's some surrounding property there that's already been zoned for multifamily residential, which you're owner of that land as well.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about those phases and how they interact with, how long have you had them?
And let me ask, do I have a presentation here?
No, but we do have that presentation and study session, Councilmember Neal, as
Yeah.
far as the estimated timeline. So can I pull up?
So you've owned those other phases for quite some time, is that correct? Since 2019 or so?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Okay.
at my husband when we bought them, but we've
Okay.
owned them for several years.
Okay.
We've built, excuse me, we've built 2 phases,
Yeah.
and we have like 4
Sure.
other phases to
Right.
build. We stopped after the first 2 phases because um, um, Murdad had sold the land for other multifamily, and we didn't want to be putting too much product into the market at once. So they've now built out and stabilized their other 2 phases. So
Right.
we feel good about the timing now.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm just trying to get an understanding.
Uh-huh.
There was some discussion about start time to move their duration. Does this also include those other areas of phases of land that are around that, or is that a separate?
Um, our approach is to stage it, thank you so much, one after the other. So each phase is close to about 500 units. And if it takes us 2 years to build that, and then we give 6 more months to stabilize, then we will commence the next phase. And now we don't have other competitive multifamily units moving into the neighborhood, so we'll be able to have a smooth schedule.
So this phase that we're discussing tonight may or may not begin in 2026 because you're doing the other
No,
parcels or phases?
it's important to go ahead and do this phase.
Okay.
Once that building's down, we don't want that to be a blighted area.
Okay. Just one or two other
Mm-hmm.
questions. Did you consider any owner-occupied residences like townhomes or senior living or condos? And if not, why?
I've tried to do that before, and I was not good at it. We've built some townhomes for sale, and our model of our business, we just we finally sold them, and they were nice homes, but it was a net zero endeavor.
Okay. And do you have any intention on selling either this property or those other phases that are surrounding that land that you own? Or you have any intention on selling that to another developer?
No. In fact, this property is owned by our children who are active in the business, but this is their career and their future.
Okay. All right. I only ask because we've had some other developers, we've given them some approval and they changed
Right.
direction. So
Yeah,
that's all I have at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just add, I was at the HOA meeting with Councilman Reed, Lucy, Henry. Thank you all for being as open as you were to the residents out there and taking the time to answer all of their questions and alleviate any concerns or fears that they had. It just shows that you all are very good partners with the city of Farmers Branch. I know you've got a lot of property here, not only resident with multifamily, but also commercial property. You're invested here, and we appreciate that. We appreciate the investment that you've made in Farmers Branch. So, council, any other questions? That's all right. You can clap. She will appreciate that. Okay. Well, this is a public hearing. I do not have anybody signed up to speak to it. So I'll entertain motion to close the public hearing and then move on.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All right. All in favor of closing public hearing? Okay, public hearing is closed. Any further discussion among council regarding this item? Is there a motion?
Mayor, make a motion to approve ordinance 3902.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Very good. Thank you. If you would, please indicate your vote accordingly. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up is item K2, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting ordinance number 3903 for a zoning amendment for an indoor commercial amusement facility on approximately 5.06 acres located at 4355 LBJ Freeway within the planned development district number 40, and take appropriate action.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Sarah Bergman, Deputy Director of Planning. This property is located along LBJ Freeway, just east of Midway Road, and is developed with an existing warehouse building constructed in 1971. The applicant is proposing to remodel a portion of this building for use as a new indoor amusement facility and trampoline park, which requires an amendment to the Plan Development PD 40 zoning. This is the proposed remodel layout. It includes about 30,000 square feet on the second floor of the building. And on the floor plan here, you can see trampoline park area, arcades, virtual reality, and then some party rooms for rental for birthday parties and such. A small portion of the first floor will also be remodeled as a kitchen to serve the indoor amusement facility. And a new wall sign is proposed on the front of the building, which would measure approximately 400 square feet. And that does exceed the maximum allowed in the city's sign code. The proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan and no opposition has been received. On January 27th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval unanimously. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here tonight as well.
Council, any questions? Councilman Neal?
Just one quick question. If this zoning amendment were to be approved, would a roller skating rink be allowed as a permitted use in this facility?
A roller skating rink would fall under the same category of indoor commercial amusement, so yes.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, very good. This is a public hearing. Again, I don't have anybody signed up to speak to it, so I'll entertain motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to close the public hearing and approve ordinance 3903.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have motion and second to close the public hearing and approve this ordinance. If you would, please indicate your vote accordingly. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up is item K3, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting ordinance number 3912 for a zoning amendment for a private school, primary and secondary, on approximately 2.79 acres located at 4000 McEwen Road within Plan Development District number 90, and take appropriate action.
Thank you, Mayor. This property will look very familiar as it was the subject of a rezoning request just a few months ago. The site is located at Alpha and McEwen Drive, and it's developed with two existing office buildings that are currently vacant. The applicant is proposing to remodel the existing buildings for use as a new private school, which was the subject of the zoning request approved in October 2024. With this modification, the applicant is proposing to construct a third building on the site that would serve as the required storm shelter as well as a gymnasium for the school, and to make some minor modifications to the site layout. So here you can see the existing site plan that was approved in October and the current proposal before you tonight. The proposed tornado shelter and gymnasium building is located here. And the only other change is that the drop-off and pickup lane has been shifted slightly to the south to allow for increased green space and playground area. These are the elevations proposed for the storm shelter. Given the building code requirements for a shelter of this type, there are limited building materials and facade improvements that can be done to still maintain that shelter component in the event of severe weather. And so the applicant is proposing concrete construction with an EIFS exterior. And then on the bottom here, you can see the existing office buildings. The total height on the storm shelter would be 26 feet. And just like before, this proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan. No opposition has been received, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval unanimously. And so, again, I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here tonight as well.
Thank you, Sarah. This is a public hearing. I don't have anybody signed up to speak. Any questions, council?
Well, I do have one. Will the presence of the school require any changes to like school zone traffic, anything along those lines?
That's a great question. Currently, a school zone is not proposed for this school. It is a private school. There's no bus drop off here and no expected pedestrian traffic from the surrounding properties. In addition, the speed limits on Alpha, McEwen, and Blue Lake Circle are relatively low. So at this time, a school zone is not proposed or required. If the school opens and that need changes in the future, it could be reevaluated.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Councilman Neal.
Two quick questions. I'm not sure if it's you or the property owner. Do we have an idea approximately how many students would be attending in this facility on a daily basis?
I'll let the applicant
Approximate.
respond to that one.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. John Arnold. I don't ever really know which address to put. 4420 Bryn Mawr, Dallas, Texas, 75225. I was going to give you my business address. About 135 students.
Thank you. And the capacity of the this new facility, is it sufficient for the 135 plus, or
It's more than
what's
sufficient.
the capacity of the new building going to be? Do we have
1,000.
Oh, 1,000. Okay.
Yeah, we're well under.
Okay.
We had
I
to
just make sure you can cover not only the students but staff and all that too. So those are the only questions I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question, sir. I didn't see it on the plan or couldn't make out from the detail that I had. Is there going to be perimeter fencing around this school and property?
Yes. Originally, the applicant was proposing to fence the entire perimeter. They've scaled that back a little so that the fencing will extend around the buildings, but the drives will remain open.
Okay, very good. All righty. Council, I will entertain motion to close public hearing. And
Okay.
Mayor, I make a motion to close the public hearing and approve ordinance 3912.
I'll second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up is item K4. Conduct a public hearing and consider adopting ordinance number 3913, granting a specific use permit for vehicle sales and leasing for property located at 14805 Venture Drive within a light industrial zoning district and take appropriate action.
Mayor, thank you again. This site is located along Venture Drive near the intersection with Gardenbrook Drive. The site is zoned light industrial, and the applicant is proposing to open a new classic car dealership within the suite shown in blue on the screen. A specific use permit is required for that use within light industrial, hence the reason for this request, and no outside sales or storage is proposed. This is the site plan, again, showing that existing suite. It's approximately 18,000 square feet of the entire building, and then this is an elevation and photo view of the existing suite. This is a layout showing the interior of the building. The applicant anticipates storing approximately 30 cars within the facility, and there's also a showroom and area for photography for online listings, as well as a small office at the front of the building. Again, no outside storage is proposed, including vehicles, and no repair work would take place within the facility. The future land use map designates this as an industrial site, so the proposed use is consistent. No opposition has been received, and again, on January 27th, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval. So with that, happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here tonight as well.
Sarah, I'm going to ask you if does the applicant plan to make any improvements or enhancements to the building itself?
No site changes are proposed, including to the building.
Okay. Council, any questions? Councilman Roman? Councilman? Councilman Neal?
Yes, sir. I have one quick question. I'm not sure if this is for you, Sarah, or the fire chief or property building owner, but can you tell me if this facility is fire sprinklered?
I believe that it is, yes. I will confirm that for you. Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, that's pretty much all I need to know. Make sure that it's properly fire sprinklered and up to code and et cetera. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. This is a public hearing. I don't have anybody signed up to speak, so council?
Mayor, I make a motion to close the public hearing and approve ordinance 3913.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up is item K5, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting ordinance 3917 for a zoning amendment for a warehouse and distribution use on approximately 22.9 acres located at 1349 and 1399 Valley View Lane within Plan Development District Number 78 and take appropriate action.
Perla Tavera, Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Planning, 1349, 1399 Valley View. This is 22.9 acres, zoned for PD 78. Current vacant, this used to be the Citizen Collection Center. Please note, we're only rezoning it for this specific address. The proposed zoning amendment would allow warehouse and distribution, enhance PD development standards, and the detailed site plan would be required. Here's the current zoning on PD 78, and here's our amended proposed, including increasing the sidewalk requirement, landscaped to 10%, and a minimum of 10% parking lots landscaping. Per the Farmers Branch 2045 comprehensive plan, this actually designated for high residential use, but due to the fact that it is a landfill, that is not consistent with this designation. Let me see. So we did send out 7 zoning notifications were mailed, 2 signs were posted, no written response has been received as of today, February 10th, 2025. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request. If there's any questions.
Council.
Mayor, I move that we table item K5 until 2/25.
A second.
We have motion and a second to table this item to May 25th or to February 25th. Motion passes. Item will be tabled and rediscussed on the 25th. Next up is item L1, which comes from the consent agenda, item J4. Consider approving resolution 2025-030, authorizing the city manager or appropriate designee to execute a contract for outsourced payroll services with ADP Incorporated for a 3-year term in the estimated amount of $564,177 and take appropriate action.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Once again, Jeffrey Ross, Director of Human Resource. I'll get it right one of these days. Along with me here tonight, I have Sarah Castillo and Nicole Nelson from ADP, just in case we have any kind of more technical questions that I can't really jump into myself. Let's see. So I guess one of the biggest questions is why consider outsourcing? Why are we even talking about it? So there's a few different reasons. I'll try and keep it concise. So for the life that we've had the system, we've experienced weekly challenges really in our configurations in the current system on both the payroll and the timekeeping side. There's errors, there's glitches, issues with calculations, accruals. Sometimes we're able to anticipate some of these and get ahead of them. But other times, even after extensive auditing of weekly or biweekly payrolls, we just have no idea when something is just not, once we hit that go button, for some reason, things just fall out of the system. People get left behind, something doesn't get taken out of their check, too much of something gets taken out of their check. We've got to go back and we've got to have those conversations with people. Sometimes people fall out of the payroll system completely, and we get those calls at 5:30 in the morning on a Friday, which I'm always happy to take because those people need their money. And so it's instant kind of go into the mode of figuring out what happened and how we make it right for those people. So just the system challenges itself alone, they are weekly that we have with the system. Another big part of the system that we're currently missing right now is what's known as an HCM, a human capital management system. This is essentially the HR side of the system. Right now, we're kind of taking everything through the finance and payroll side of the system. We're missing important components like manager self-service, enhanced employee self-service things. We have our benefits under another platform for people to sign up for. So we don't have everything kind of living under one house, under one umbrella. So we make it work as it is. It's kind of missing that HR side of the system, though, is kind of like driving a car with two wheels. You're going to get where you need to go, but it's going to be kind of loud. We're going to tear some things up along the way, and it's going to be bumpy. So as I mentioned, we're missing some lack of important utilities for both managers and employees. Our time clocks and our badges, for people who clock in and out, they're not always working consistently or regularly. So people will show up and they'll clock in just fine. They go to clock out for lunch and all of a sudden something's not working. They go to swipe it again and all of a sudden it works again. And so now we've got all of these punches and all these time cards that just we have to go in and manually, our supervisors have to go in and manually fix. When we do have these configurations and these glitches and these issues that we have with the current system, Tyler Munis is our system. We do get somewhat inconsistent support from them in both sourcing effective and permanent solutions as to why some of these things occur. And then for our HR staff, I do have an HR position that does this. It's our payroll systems administrator position. It's currently vacant. Along with that position, which I would say that it takes about 105% of that position's time. It's really all that position can do in HR. It can't really jump into anything else. It also takes around 25 to 50% of the deputy director's time, along with my time as a director, to try and not just jump in front of these issues and try and troubleshoot and figure out where things are going on, but also to try to manage between the employees that it's affected. We also have to get finance teams involved, IT teams involved, and everybody's just putting in all these efforts, and it really does take up a lot of time for this function. So that's a little bit about why we're considering outsourcing. And so when we first started having the discussions, we eventually ended up reaching out to 7 different vendors. Most of them offered technology-only solutions with mainly a 1-800 number support that you could call if you were having issues. So the issue with that is we weren't really looking for a technology-only solution. We were looking for technology plus people support, somewhere to truly outsource this where they are doing the majority of the work on our payroll processing. And so ADP did offer the strongest, and that's why we're bringing it forward tonight. An important note is that our sworn police and fire employees, for their time and attendance only, for now they're going to stay on their advanced scheduling in our ExecuTime time and attendance platform. ADP does have a solution for that, but it's more of an enterprise-wide system, which would essentially be a Tyler Munis replacement, which is not where we're moving right now. But what we do gain with ADP, and one of the reasons that we're bringing them forward, is we get the enhanced payroll service and support with 5 support staff from ADP. That includes a dedicated payroll specialist, payroll processing specialist. We have a business relationship manager. We have people who work directly with city staff. We have, and I'll touch on the support that we get here in just a moment. But another big piece that this service gives us, as I was talking about that missing HR side of the system, this system gives us that HR side. Now we've got manager self-service. Now we've got enhanced reporting. Now we've got enhanced employee self-service, to where an employee, everything that they need about themselves and their employment here, their vacation accruals, their paycheck stubs, things like that, they can see through the ADP app on their phone. So, or through the web app as well. It would have full employee onboarding and offboarding in one system, including our personnel actions. Another big benefit of this is we'd be able to move almost everything that includes employees, anything that they're going to react with, under one house. So we currently use, it's called Ben Select. It's through Celerix. It's our benefit management platform. It's a standalone service that we use that we have to kind of sync up and do manual uploads and do different things. It doesn't necessarily talk to our Tyler Munis system. So when people are electing their benefits, we're taking it manually out of the benefit system and putting it into the Tyler Munis system. ADP would have all of that all under one roof. Open enrollment, annual enrollment, new hire enrollment, all of it happens under one roof for employees. It also gives us a lot of different compliance, everything from Affordable Care Act tracking and reporting and compliance to our tax reporting and compliance, both quarterly, monthly, annual. all those sorts of things. As I mentioned, the time clocks that we have issues with, we would actually have geofence time tracking solutions through the ADP app. So we would be looking to move away from the problematic time clock issues that we have. Now, the great thing about that is that in order to be able to clock in, it's geofenced. So if you work in City Hall, and let's just say that you're down the street at McDonald's at 8:15 and you were supposed to be here at 8, you're not going to be able to pull out your ADP app and say, oh, yeah, I'm at work. No, the geofencing means you're going to have to be within a specific proximity of the building that you work in order for you to be able to clock in. Along with that, we'd be able to replace some other functions that HR currently does. We do commercial employment and income verifications. This would free up some of our HR staff from that. One of the biggest things that we would get is extensive reporting analytics and integration with Munis through API tools. What that basically means is everybody in the city is using ADP and it's feeding Munis, which is our system of record. So we would have everything all through one. We'd be able to get simple reports out of it. We've seen the demo of it. IT has been part of that demo. It's great reporting. You can get all sorts of great information out of it, fully customizable information that we now have access to. The support is one of the biggest things that we're going to have for this. There's a few different levels of support here. And when I say 24/7 support line, here's how I want to expand that. So there's essentially 3 levels of support that we would have. We're going to have Monday through Friday is going to be 8 to 5:30. That's going to be mostly for our payroll liaisons and our managers and people working on this side of the city to make sure that our payroll is flowing as it should. Outside of that, for employees and everybody else, there's going to be an employee line that would be available from 7 in the morning until 10:30 at night. And that obviously gives them much more support. And this can be anything from their payroll to their benefit questions. And that's also customizable for what services that they can provide to employees. And then from the administrative side, so in HR and in finance and IT, we would have a dedicated business person for everything that occurs outside of normal operating hours. So if it's 5:30 on a Saturday and I'm getting that phone call, I didn't get paid or something's wrong, right? Like I've got a resource and I've got a partner that I can reach out to be sure that that we're getting those things taken care of. And so that's just a little bit of what the ADP Workforce Now platform brings to us. It is a payroll and HR solution for a lot of things that we're looking at. And I want to talk a little bit about the cost and how we've tried to keep it. We're not asking for any additional funding for this. We're going to work within our current funding, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So our projected annual cost for using the ADP service, and that's everything all in one, is going to be about $188,000 and some change. And there's going to be a one-time implementation cost to get the system ramped up and implemented and talking to Munis and getting people trained on it. The pricing is based on a PEPM model. That's per employee per month. So the more employees you have in the system, it's based on a tiered pricing model. And as we gain employees, as we lose employees, as people come on and off, the costs obviously monthly, they go up and down, and that's for a 3-year term. And so we found it through the Omnia Cooperative, which offers an 11% discount along with a 6.5% negotiated discount with ADP. And they've also given us a free month for each year of the contract. And so how we would look to essentially pay for this service through our existing means, one of the biggest ways we would do that is, I mentioned we currently have a headcount for this, the payroll systems administrator position. We would be looking to permanently reduce the headcount of HR by 1, take the money that we were going to be paying to that position and put it towards this ADP solution, which essentially gives us not 1, not 2, not 3, but up to 5 support staff now for all of our payroll needs. So we'd be looking to reduce that, and it is currently vacant, so it wouldn't affect any current employees. There's also some pieces within Tyler Munis and ExecuTime right now that we would be able to stop paying recurring costs on that just we're required to pay as part of just general maintenance of the system. We wouldn't be using some parts of the system anymore if we switched to ADP, so we wouldn't be paying those fees anymore. We would also be looking to move from our BenSelect, the Celerix platform for our benefits, and that's also what does our ACA tracking and reporting, that can all be done through ADP now, and that's a significant savings and also puts everything under one roof as it's related to employees. We'd be looking to get rid of what we call the Form I-9 tracker because ADP can also do that. And so other budget adjustments that we've looked at, so we've identified some pretty significant savings in just changing the way that we kind of do business in HR. And looking at the way we used to do background checks, we were spending a pretty significant amount of money on background checks. We've since changed to a something actually that the Texas Government Code allows us to use, which is the Texas Department of Public Safety database, which is not totally free, but almost free. So for most applicants, it's going to be about $0 to run their background. Same thing with drug and alcohol testing changes. We identified we were doing a lot of drug and alcohol testing for employees that we maybe not should have been conducting for every single position coming into the city. So we found some ways to scale back on that. Looking at different ways to use existing resources for our interdepartmental training with our departments, moving away from the Gallup platform as our contract with them is expiring. And then we also receive an administrative credit from our healthcare provider, UMR, that essentially gives us an administrative allowance as part of our contract to be able to use to pay for things like a benefit platform. We're currently using that with one of our other services that we provide. So there is additional available from that administrative credit from UMR as well. So the total cost that we would be looking at, we're actually looking to hopefully have this not just be budget neutral, but to also just cost us less within our existing budget as it is. And now I say one last time, these costs are on a PEPM schedule per employee per month, and they will fluctuate as employee counts go up and as they go down, those costs fluctuate. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. That was a lot.
Councilman Rowan, you requested this?
No, I didn't request it. Oh, I mean, I requested it to be on here because it was already going to be discussed later, but I didn't I didn't request the item to come up. But I just wanted to make sure that we sort of kind of hit the nail on the head on the main point of this from, I'm sure as residents are hearing and looking at the cost, it's $564,000. And so as I'm reading through the material, can you just summarize, what the trade-off is going to be, because we're not going to be filling a position, and what that financial impact is going to be. You've explained very thoroughly what the benefits are, and I agree with you. There's definite need for it, and there are some benefits for it, but in terms of the financial impact.
Sure. So in terms of the financial impact, this is the 500 and some change that we would be paying for the ADP service. We'd already be paying for the position, and that's going to cost us, over, the length of however long we have that position. So the trade-off for it of trading off for the position for the service is essentially going to be, we're getting a support team of up to 5 from ADP. That's going to help us in our weekly and our biweekly annual reporting, every aspect of our payroll and even our HR functions. So doing things like now we don't have to push everything through the one side of the system. We now have an actual HR side of the system where we can get better data out of it. We can get better information for managers to manage their people, know more about, make data-informed decisions when they're doing things about their people. So with the extended people, with the extended support hours, we've got 3 different levels of support that we're going to be getting from them. They can do everything that we currently do for employees. The wage garnishment service is there. So if we have things like child support, things like that, they take care of all that. They do all the reporting. They do all the send outs to even other states if necessary. So they take care of all that stuff for us. Not only that, but it also frees up, one thing I didn't mention, it frees up time in HR for us to focus essentially on HR things. Along with that, we've had turnover in the payroll position that we have since it's come to HR. And if we only have one person that does it, we do have a backup for it. But if the normal payroll person is out and maybe the backup person for it is out, what are we doing for payroll that week? We're working together, going through the SOPs, trying to figure out how we get everybody paid. And that's an important part. It also takes the burden off of IT because they no longer have to manage system upgrades, testing, validations. It's all handled on the ADP side because it's ADP technology, and they're essentially just pushing the new user manuals, guides, updates to us, and we're communicating it to our employees.
Thanks.
Councilman?
So to clarify, there's one payroll person that we're not backfilling, but there are no other HR functions that this is taking over that is an offset for us?
So it would be able to do a few different things. So it would be able to do our commercial employment verifications. It would be able to do our income verifications, which is currently done by an HR staff member, not actually by the payroll position. It's done by our front desk admin, as it's more administrative in nature. It's going to reduce a lot of the back and forth that we have to have with our benefits platform vendor, especially at times of annual enrollment. We're always having to go back and essentially reinvent the wheel every year that we go to do it because things change in their system. This keeps us continually updated on everything that we would be doing with benefits from that way.
Okay. And do you have off the top of your head any of the other vendors that you reached out to?
As far as cost?
No, just who they were.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So there's some of the big names out there. There's UKG, there's Paylocity, there's Paychex, and a few others. We looked at all of them, and most of them offered mostly only technology support. And the ones that was a little bit more than technology was basically 1-800 number support. It still would have required a person on the city side doing the same work that they're doing now. We'd just be using a different technology to do it. But it still would have required that new technology plus the person that we currently have.
Councilman Reed? Councilman Neal?
Yeah, thank you. I'm assuming that after the 3-year period, we renegotiate another option period with them with likely increased costs.
Very well.
Have you had any contact with neighboring cities or other cities around Texas that are using the ADP facility? What's their comfort level? How is their renegotiation after 2 or 3 years of commitment? Can you shed some light on that?
Sure. So I've talked to at least 2, and it's been overwhelming. We love it. And they have no issues with the system. They say that they can make it work for them. We've from the ones that we were able to identify here locally, there are other cities around the nation that use it, but the ones that we were able to identify here locally in the area, it was glowing feedback from it.
I heard you mention, let me get to my notes here, that there's some API interfaces to the munis.
Mm-hmm.
Who handles or coordinates that configuration or setup? Is that something we in our IT department has to do, or is it something ADP does as part of this, or how does that work?
Sure. So it's a great question. So during the implementation process, and it's about a 14-week implementation, IT and HR and ADP will all be working together to make sure that we can essentially connect the dots between the systems and make sure that they talk to each other in the right way.
And I'm assuming our IT department's on board with that, and they have the staff and skill set to handle and manage that with ADP?
They do, and they were in the demo, and they asked their questions that they needed it so that they could have the assurance that this was going to be a system that they could effectively manage.
Great. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you very much.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
And that is, I remember several years ago when we invested with the Tyler system, we spent 7 figures to buy that. And we pay 6 figures a year to license it. And I thought at the time that was sold to us as like the great savior and it's going to do everything for us. But you've alluded to issues with that. So my question is, are we still paying in the 6 figures each year to license that? Is it doing what we need? Are we at a point where we should be looking at something else because it does other things also, but do we need to have a separate review of that?
I can only speak for the side of the system that I use, and I'm not also sure on the costs that we pay for the system. So I can only speak on the essentially the payroll and the timekeeping side of it. I'm not really familiar with how the rest of it goes. I can say when I have to get into my budgets and look elsewhere in Tyler Munis, I generally don't have any trouble finding my information, finding my budgets, being able to sort through it. So I don't think I could say
Okay,
whether
then
the rest of it's working.
I'll move that question over to Sid, my
Sure.
buddy to the left here.
So yes, that we still pay. I get the contract numbers for you, but we do have a maintenance on Tyler Munis that we pay for the system to maintain it, upkeep it. Before Tyler Munis was implemented, the city of Farmers Branch was a manual city, and by manual I mean manual systems. For many in the room, including the council, you may remember the green and black screen with the flashing little cursor database systems. That was AS400. That was our finance system. So the trade-off is, yes, as you upgrade and take a city that was doing manual processes, there's bumps along the way. But what it does is it creates transparency. So a lot of times when y'all ask me for information, notice I go back to 2022 and then the data changes, right? So you have robust data to 2022. So that's the trade-off. It's more work, it's more staff, it's more money, but it makes it transparent for the residents, for the council, permits, where the money's going in those different pieces. So this is one of those pieces where the HR system for payroll, this makes sense to say that piece is great in theory and theme, but we can be budget neutral and do better by the employees and provide a higher level of service and help HR stay HR.
Okay. Well, I think obviously anything we do, it's important to be budget neutral. Yes, council members ask for a lot of information, a lot of reports, and being able to generate that is important. But if we're having issues with the system, then I guess that's probably a separate discussion. I want to get into that. So I'm just going to stop there. We'll have that another time. So, okay. Any other questions for this item? Okay.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2025-030 as presented.
I second.
Thank you. We have motion and a second. If you would please indicate your vote. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. We do have action as a result of executive session. And so we will take that right now, and then we will go back and finish our study session, which will be right here after the regular council meeting. So, first item, I do have a motion to move to allow city manager or his designee to negotiate economic incentives that may include sales and/or property tax abatement for project 2025.001.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. That was D1. Sorry. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item is D2.
Mayor, regarding item D2 25-132, I move to allow the city manager or his designee to negotiate economic incentives that may include sales and or property tax abatement for project 2025-002.
Second.
We have motion and a second. If you would, please indicate your vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up is item D3, and I will move to allow city manager or his designee to negotiate economic incentives that may include sales and or property tax abatement for project 2025.003.
Second.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Uh, That concludes all of our business for our council meeting, a regular council meeting. Uh, When we take 5-minute break, and then we will resume with study session item C3.
So Mayor, when you come back next week, since that was already discussed, you technically don't have to do this one since it's right.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
You still want to?
I'll have, yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back to City Farmers Branch study session now. Our next item is item C3. City Council will discuss calendar of recognition of events and celebration of holidays that may accompany a proclamation. Councilman Roman, you requested this. So
Yeah, um, I think that when I was looking at the community survey results and just listening to feedback from residents, it seems that we really can do a lot better when it comes to recognizing different cultures, different groups. And sometimes it's a little bit unclear. Sometimes we might want to do something, but we're not sure if, because when it comes to uh, January, I might think, oh, it might be time to do Black History Month, but maybe I've already missed a deadline to do it. So I think, and then in terms of planning for any groups that might want to participate in that proclamation and be here, I think it's a little challenging if they're not sure of what that schedule is going to look like. So I think having it planned out and also giving clear direction to our staff of what the year is going to look like, and subsequent years as well, in terms of what we're going to be posting on social media, when a proclamation is going to happen and what proclamations are going to occur. I think that this process of having a calendar put together really goes a long way to make sure that we're being as efficient with our time and that residents can plan for attending any proclamations. But more than that, I think our demographic in our city is changing quite significantly. I think we've seen a lot of growth on the west side when it comes to the Southeast Asian population, and the demographic continues to become more and more diverse. And so over the weekend, when I looked at the community survey, one of the things that was listed on there was that for arts, culture, and childcare, that satisfaction with opportunities for cultural arts and music activities fell from 56% satisfaction to 45%. And I feel like we've made a lot of great strides, particularly with the multicultural event that's happened. And I would have thought that maybe the numbers would have gone up, but I think it was maybe a wake-up call for me that we can do more. And in an effort to also try to be fiscally responsible, putting something on social media doesn't cost any money. Having a proclamation doesn't cost any money either. But I think those small instances where we can highlight cultural groups or people, or celebrate their culture and have it represented, I think it really will go a long way of making people feel like they belong and are part of our really diverse and growing community. And so that was part of it. I looked at the calendar of events that was put together by staff as sort of a suggestion, with anything that's noted in black as something that goes and it's posted on social media. And then everything that's highlighted in blue is a proclamation. I think this calendar did an excellent job at identifying not having too much and not having too little. I think it was a great balance. There were some that I thought, after reviewing it, that were important to include, like St. Patrick's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos. So I think making those adjustments and maybe others that council members might request would be a really great way to hopefully increase that score that I just referenced for next year, but also will help people feel more like part of their community. So that's kind of where it came from, and look forward to this discussion.
very good. Anybody comments, Councilman?
I learned on Friday morning in my one-on-one that we are supposed to be setting these holidays. I had no idea that the council was supposed to be doing that. So that was enlightening to me. So I think that, I don't know how we do it. If like St. Patrick's Day is obviously, a big one, we could just, I don't know, circulate around, Nicole, if, without getting in trouble, maybe the list that each of us may want, and then have a discussion here.
That'd be
Okay.
Yeah, that would probably be good to create a list and bring it to the strategic planning and or add that as one of our discussion items. Um, I will say, you know, we get a lot of proclamation requests. We get a lot of proclamation requests. I get them. I think I've had 3 this week, and uh, we're pretty good about issuing proclamations that are relevant to our city. But we also get groups and individuals that are proclamation shopping. They're looking to just boost whatever they're trying to do. And so I didn't know if this, because of the title of this item, if there was a problem with the proclamation process, which I'm taking that there's not, because we do have a stated process for that. But then it gets into events. And are we now looking to create more events when we went through the whole exercise to pare down events to be more efficient with our staff? So I put that out there because that might be a discussion point also. It,
I am not. I was part of that process. I'm not for more events unless we can very succinctly add something, for instance, to the multicultural committee. If there's another group that we just haven't addressed and we can pull them in, that's appropriate.
okay. Councilman Reed.
Yeah, one of the things I want to get some clarification on is, are we talking, are we looking to discuss not only events or recognition of months or whatever the case may be, but you had mentioned holidays. Are we looking to change the actual city holidays as well? Is that something that we want to task ourselves with? Reason why I say that is that as members of staff and such, we've got, some folks have children. So, for example, yesterday the city was open, right? Yeah, but school was out. So parents have to arrange for some sort of daycare if there is no stay-at-home parent or if there's a single parent. Same thing with MLK Day, I believe. The city was open. So one of the things as part of this, I think we should consider is aligning our holidays with the CFBISD holidays to give our staff members who have children some flexibility in that so they don't have to arrange childcare or what have you. And that way we're not, picking and choosing. We've got something that we can align ourselves with.
If I can sort of
Hold on 1 second. Let me just get Councilman Neal because then come back.
No, I was just going to add on to what Councilman Reed said, that we should probably align ourselves with some organization, whether it be the state of Texas, the school board, or even federal. But before going there, I'd like us to have a conversation about what holidays we currently are following within the city of Farmers Branch, and then identify any holes that we might have and align with what other organizations. So I'm not sure if this is the topic specific that Councilman Omar was getting at. So if this is outside of that, let me know so we can circle back to the topic you had in mind.
So, Ben, I will ask you this question. In terms of deciding when City Hall is closed, what events City Hall operates on and celebrates, it seems to me like it feels more of an operations thing. Is that correct? Or is that within our purview?
I give this to the city council because when we close, you're recognizing the reason we close is the policy group. So certain functions will always go on, fire, police, for example, any emergency response like public works. But for me as the city manager to put something on the city's social media or on the website I need my council to acknowledge this is something that we're celebrating as the policy group for the city. I align operations to your policy for when the city is open or closed. So the holidays you all as the council would like to see, my job is then to match operations to that as well. But you as the council make that decision.
Okay. So, and appreciate Council Member Neal's comments. This request for a discussion was very simple. And I don't want to detract from it by kind of going in these other directions. It was very simple. It was making social media posts and when those would happen, and certain proclamations that would already be uh, given based off of the calendar year. In terms of the number of proclamations that are being presented here, I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I don't think it would be a significant burden to include those. That would be Black History Month, National Women's History Month, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Pride Month, Native American Heritage Month. Those would be it. I mean, unless there's a request for additional ones, I would say probably Hispanic Heritage Month, just giving the demographic of our city. So that would make 6. And then everything else, New Year's, that would say to the staff, okay, New Year's is something that is we're going to be posting about. We're not going to have a proclamation, but it's going to be posted. It's all in the calendar that was as part of the materials for today's discussion, and has it very clearly on here, everything that is suggested to be published on the website and on social media. So again, the discussion is not about city holidays. It's not about events or anything like that. It's very simple. It is, what are we going to post about online and social media and on the website, and what proclamations we're gonna have. That's it.
Okay.
And so I agreed with all of the things that are listed on the events calendar. I made some additions there on things that I think would be important, and was wanting to see, I think the question is, number one, do you support the things that are listed on the calendar? And number two, are there any that you would like to add? I think that's the question.
So what I'd like for you to do is submit that information to city manager and let him send that out to all of us so we can see again what you've put down there, so everybody has a chance to evaluate it. Councilman Jackson's not here. And then I still think we should probably carve out some time to have a follow-up discussion on it, just to make sure that everybody's in agreement, because we're not going to take action on this tonight.
Right, but the discussion is so that we don't have to belabor this and have another discussion. And
Well,
what I'm referencing is materials that were provided to all of us as part of our packet a week ago.
okay.
So I don't see the need to recirculate information that we should have already reviewed.
If we have it, then we should probably, everybody needs to take another review at it, and then we'll come back and have another discussion at it. We probably need to have that at a few minutes of discussion at our strategic planning session, because I can very easily see, I understand what you're saying, but then, I've tried to open up the invocations at city council meetings by inviting all of the churches that are located in Farmers Branch to come and be a part of our council meetings by delivering the opening invocation. And that's something I'm working on. Letters have gone out to everybody. I feel passionately about that. And hopefully as people respond back, then we'll get them penciled in for a particular date, and they'll be able to come and introduce themselves. And
May I ask a question? What is what you were talking about, sending letters to,
Well,
have to do with
it's
the subject?
still recognition of something in our city. Okay.
I think
We're-
Councilmember Omar is actually correct. I think we're getting a little off track
Okay.
based on what's actually said on the agenda. So we just need to kind of get back to what it says was, event celebration of holidays that may accompany a celebration. So it sounds like council member potentially wants to bring this back as an action item to take action so that we would actually pass a resolution acknowledging these certain holidays based on the calendar that's been presented. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So, and if individuals, will they have, when we bring this back, they'll have the opportunity to add or strike events as they feel.
Absolutely, because it'll be a resolution as presented and you can amend as necessary.
All right. So we can schedule that for an upcoming agenda.
Any other thoughts from any other council members? Would love to have a dialogue if needed while we're here in this forum.
I think it's wonderful. I just feel, learning what I learned on Friday, we should all at some point have that conversation about holidays for staff.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Any other discussion on?
Yeah, I'd like us to add into that the recognition aspect, recognizing a group or performing proclamations for a group. How do we delineate between a proclamation and just a recognition? I know some cities around us do recognitions as opposed to proclamations, and some various ways of how they do that recognition. So I think we should maybe have a conversation in that area as well.
Well,
as part of all this, because I don't know that we can do a proclamation for so many people, or so many groups, because there might be more than the 5, but others might come forward and want their group recognized or proclamation too. So I'm just trying to see if there's any differentiation between the proclamation and a recognition, or is it one and the same? I don't know.
Well, and then I think you take it a step further. So is the proclamation read at council? Is it read at the event? If it's an event, is it both? How far do we go? Is it something you just drop off? I just dropped one off today at Sampac Ford for their 45th anniversary. We're not reading it, but there was one issue.
Was that a recognition or proclamation, or is it by default a proclamation recognition?
Well, in this case, it was a proclamation recognizing them for 45 years of service. So it was, I guess, both in one. So if that makes sense, but that's what it was. It was recognizing their 45 years of service. All right.
Do we put those proclamations as social media posts, as Councilman Roman had suggested?
That will have to be decided at the next discussion of this. Okay. Anything else on that?
No, thank you for the
All right,
discussion.
thank you. Item C4 has really already been decided, so I'm going to dispense with that. Next up will be item C5, receive an update from the Human Resources Department on the four-day work week schedule for city staff.
Good evening again. I'm going to get it right this time. Jeffrey Ross, Director of Human Resources. All right. So, and you'll notice this presentation is in a bit of a different format. Our communications team did a great job of getting us a new format for our presentations, and it looks like I'm going to be the first to kind of ring it in. So we're bringing this item back today because I think it's going to give us a great opportunity to maybe highlight some things that maybe we haven't discussed before, hopefully build some clarity and some confidence about what we're doing with our four-day work week schedules, kind of being a pioneering city in that realm. And so kind of where I want to guide the conversation first is talk a little bit about kind of where we started to where we are now and what we're putting in place to be sure that with the four-day work weeks, it's obviously a very beneficial schedule for people, or any type of flexibility in work schedule is. We want to make sure that we have the right things in place to be sure that we're not creating any type of disparate impact, that we're not that we're using our policies and being able to apply them consistently among everyone, that everybody kind of has a guideline to follow. So as part of that, we do have some new and updated policies, and we worked in collaboration with our city attorney team to assure fairness and consistency in the determination of alternate work schedules. As part of those policies, not only do they outline things like eligibility guidelines and how you could possibly lose access to that, there's now processes and forms, there's workflows that start at the departmental level and go all the way up through human resources to make sure that for if we're going to give access to or restrict access to an alternate work schedule like a 410, that we've got it coming through in the proper channels and that the proper oversight exists to make sure that we're looking at the right things for it, and we have that. Also, for our leaders and staff, we have written guidelines and forms for staff at all levels to determine the proper use, applicability, and eligibility for working alternate schedules. And one thing that I want to highlight about that resources for leaders and staff is over the past year, since summer of last year, we implemented a new performance management system. And as part of that performance management system, a big part of it was setting expectations for performance. And I'd say a vast majority of our supervisors used that opportunity. We totally retrained all of our supervisors on how to hold people accountable to that. One of the biggest things that came out of that was accountability around their scheduling and being here on time. And we saw that built into so many different ones because supervisors just wanted to be able to set that expectation for their people. And so we've got a wholly retrained staff on making sure that people are here when they're supposed to be, regardless of what their schedule is. And then we also have consistent 5-day coverage, especially here in City Hall. We have coverage 5 days a week to prevent any gaps in service or response. And as part of this, we did gather some new data. And when I was building the survey, looking at our previous survey, I think that there was a good opportunity to build in some what we call conditional logic and routing based on who is going to respond to the survey. And when we marketed and advertised the survey, we sent it to everyone. Now, we asked for your opinion on 4-day work weeks, whether you work it or whether you don't. And now, once you go into the survey, one of the first questions you would ask is, what type of schedule do you work? And we have all of our currently available city schedules. So if you're 410, it takes you to one set of questions. If you're a 4896 fire schedule, it takes you to a different set of questions. Same thing with police, same thing with full-time employees that don't work a 410 schedule. So based on what your response to that was, it routed you different places in the survey to answer different questions because we didn't want to ask a 4896 fire employee, hey, what do you think about working a 410 schedule? Are you doing better with it? Is it not working for you? It's an irrelevant question for that person. So we were able to provide that type of routing and logic built into the survey. We had great response on a couple different parts of the survey, and I want to take you through what that data looks like. So one of the first questions that we asked was for people that currently work a 410 schedule, how would you rate your productivity on a 4-day work week compared to a 5-day schedule? And you can see the results of it here. Now, the way that we broke down this schedule, we wanted to be, this survey, we wanted to be able to gather data both quantitatively and qualitatively. We wanted to be able to show charts with things on it, but we also wanted to figure out what's the underlying context to the data. People say that they're more productive. What does this really mean? And how do we get some of that information from people to know what the actual context behind that data is? So in addition to them rating it on a scale, we also asked them to provide, we gave them an open comment box and just asked for their feedback on it. Now, in order to be able to break that down, we do what's called a sentiment analysis on it. And that's an evaluative method of quantifying qualitative responses. And that's done through a couple of different ways, and we break them into themes. And so that's positive, neutral, and mixed, and negative themes. Basically, I like it, I don't have an opinion, or I don't like it, is basically how that rolls. So looking at all the different things put together, we see that employees who work a 410 schedule rate that their productivity is much higher. And when we look at the accompanying qualitative comments that are about that, we find that people really enjoy that they have additional hours in the day to complete work that may, if 5 o'clock rolls around, they may have to wait for the next day to be able to complete that work, or they'll have to use overtime to be able to complete that work. And then if they're waiting until the next day, it breaks their thought cycle. They come back into it. They're not as fresh on it, things like that. So that was one of the biggest sentiments that we had come out of it. We also see staff that are present more during the week, because from the people that I talk to and what comes out of the survey, people are scheduling their personal appointments, their doctor's appointments, things like that. They're scheduling it on their day off. If they're off on a Monday, they're off on a Friday. It means that they're not being out in the middle of the week to go take care of those appointments. And so people, obviously, with having that extra day off, they rate their work-life balance as being very high. And we actually have a different question about that, but it was a common sentiment that came out in this, most specifically in their ability to rest and recharge over the weekend and be more productive when they come back that following week. Now with that, we did see some, just a few people who, we wanted to gather everything. We certainly wanted to be able to consider everything. Some people mentioned they tend to still work 5 days a week, and it can be difficult to find help when the department is not open on Fridays, which, as I previously mentioned, we have full coverage across City Hall. At least we have consistent 5-day coverage, where if you come in to even HR, if you come into finance, if you come in to any of our departments here in City Hall, you're going to find somebody there to help you. Now, the next question that we asked, and all the questions followed the same sort of thing for people on a 410 schedule: how would you rate the impact that the 4-day work week has had on your work-life balance? And again, we kind of saw the overwhelming results, and we did the same type of analysis on it as well. They rate the impact as absolutely transformational, as one person said. It allows me to take care of personal things on my day off rather than taking time off during the week. Some people have mentioned that the longer hours are a little bit rough for them. We haven't seen that very much. It only came up in one response. And then when we do see some of the negative sentiment about it, it's more about those longer hours and then being away from home a little bit more. The trade-off for that, of course, is you have a whole extra day at home by giving those extra hours during the week. And then for something that we look at that's called predictive retention, trying to predict how employees, how a certain benefit or perk affects the retention of an employee, their willingness to stay here and their want to stay here and continue on with us. We asked them to rate the influence that 4-day work weeks have on their decision to either stay or leave the city. And while we did get statistically significant information for this, it meets all the right reliability and validity requirements. Why somebody stays or leaves a city is much more, there's many other variables to consider for employees. And so I wanted to show the data just based on this one question, but to truly gather what that predictive retention looks like and to be able to rank 410 schedules versus, say, HSA contributions versus this or versus that perk or benefit. It really takes more of what's called a multivariate survey, where we're looking at a whole different number of everything that we offer and what's the most important to people so that we can properly rank it that way. But we saw generally the same themes here with this information. Now, we did, of course, ask, we had great response from the people who work the 410 schedule, obviously, because they have an interest in, they work it every day. But again, we did send it out to everyone. We pushed it to everyone. We were telling everybody that we saw, hey, even if you don't work the 410 schedule, fill out the survey. Tell us what you see about our service. Let us know if there's any gaps, how we can do better, things like that. And so when we get the data from people who don't work a 410 schedule, we actually didn't have statistically significant response to be able to validate either the validity and the reliability of the data. Now, what we did get out of that is we had some qualitative comments in the boxes. There weren't very many. Overall, we only had from fire, we received 20 responses total to the survey, and from police, we received 7. And that's a respective response rate of 24% and 8%. So not statistically significant, but one of the great things about including the qualitative information was that we saw some things in the comment boxes that said, okay, here's something somebody said maybe about a service gap, and we're able to do some internal alignment checking on that and go to those departments and say, what's going on here? Do we have the coverage here? What's the schedule like? We're able to check internally to be sure that we're meeting that need, meeting that service. Now, like I say, we got very, very, very few of those, and it's not in a way that was statistically significant. And that's really it can indicate that the people didn't have a strong enough opinion about it because they're still getting the same service level that they were previously. So moving on to kind of the synopsis of what everything looked like. So overwhelmingly, employees on a 410 schedule reported being more productive due to a number of factors, as well as being more present as they schedule their personal appointments on their day off. They also had a great response for their work-life balance. I just talked a little bit about the non-410 response and some of the service level adjustments that we've made, such as making sure that all departments have coverage on Fridays so that if you walk in, you've got a smiling face looking right back at you. And then the updates to our oversight and procedures. So that's been one of the biggest efforts that we've made. We've updated our policy, we've updated our workflows and our processes and the oversight of who sees what's happening. So if a department says, Joe Smith can't work this schedule, we make sure that we have the proper oversight to be sure, okay, why can't they work that schedule? Is it business necessity? Is it because they are on a performance improvement plan? They're facing some type of disciplinary action, things like that. So we've made a lot of big efforts there, and we're retraining supervisors again on what those new policies and processes look like. If there's one thing that I can say, taking away from this research effort, from this data that I think really stands out, is our employees, they understand that 410 work schedules are a privilege, not a right. And just like any privilege, they know that if they abuse it, they can lose it. And I'm fully committed to making sure that our employees take full advantage of all the benefits and that they're not abusing or otherwise taking advantage of the program. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff. Councilman Roman?
Well, I asked for this item, and I appreciate you. I'm finding my notes from when I read it this weekend, and it's nothing groundbreaking, but I wanted to read you what my honest thoughts were when I first finished looking through it.
Yes, sir.
I said, this presentation is really good, really, really good. And I really appreciate you taking the time and effort to kind of get back to the drawing board, really conduct some research and highlight some of the opportunities that you guys had where there was a few speed bumps that you had to overcome, and working with our legal team and making sure that policies are updated to make sure that we're being extremely cautious and compliant with the way we administer this program, and then training our staff to make sure that they're conforming with that policy. So all in all, it sounds like it's an incredible program. It's working. And one of the things that I'll continue to look at, because I thought to myself, well, what's next, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's ensuring that while we've heard from the employees and not just the feedback that's raving about how great this program is, but also the feedback on, how maybe they are not happy with it, but kind of getting a better sense of why, that was helpful. But the next step, I thought, well, how do we gauge the service level for our residents? And I think we did that through our national community survey. So I took a look at those results, and it seems like the services that we're offering, see at least how happy people are with the services we're providing seems to be on an upward trend. So all in all, I think things are going well. I just needed for someone to put the presentation together in the way that you did. So much appreciation for that.
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
And one thing that I didn't mention that I do want to highlight, because I think it's important, and it goes back to what you were talking about with kind of what is that service level to people who don't necessarily work here. So one of the additional data sets that we looked together was we worked with Maria Mentor, who's over our customer success team, and they increased their efforts to be able to get feedback from residents, people walking in and getting service on their Listen 360 survey that they give to everybody. And they gave me that data. And for the most recent data that we see, there's 3 different levels of how that's scored. And so if you score a 20 on what's called the Net Promoter Score, it means that you're giving good service. If you score a 50, it means that you're giving excellent service. And if you score a 70, And this is their terminology. World-class service is anything 70 or above. And the most recent data that we have, we're sitting at a 94 for that net promoter score. So that just kind of helps to, we always want to evaluate that, and we want to find methods to evaluate internally as well to make sure that we're also providing that same level of service and measuring it effectively. But I wanted to highlight that because that team does a great job, and they made a big effort to really try and they had it on well, cards, they had it on everything to try and get people to give us some feedback on like, hey, what do you think of our service?
Councilwoman?
It was great. I appreciated it, especially where we came from. So thank you very much. How long does it take you to put together these surveys and to go through all of this? I'm kind of looking at a metrics moment of when we ask for things, what is the price tag on this?
Sure. So whenever I put together a survey or conduct any type of research effort, there's a lot that goes into that, certainly. It's been a big part of my professional education is making sure that I do it correctly and statistically and valid on all that. But essentially, it's the longest part of it really is figuring out what do I want to ask to be sure that I'm not leading a question, to make sure that I'm not sending out surveys that give a response of what we're looking for, that they can be objective in nature and things like that. So to really quantify it and put time on it, I mean, not a terrible amount of time. I mean, most of it goes into the after part of analyzing.
Right. So since these are so important to our daily functioning of an operation, is there a way that you can start making them more fluid so they're just part of us figuring out what's working and what isn't, instead of us having to come to make certain something is working, that you guys are kind of a step ahead of us? Does that make sense? A little bit.
Makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
All right, Director. Great presentation. I love the statistical analysis. I think I agree and appreciate everything that's been said before me. For me to dumb it down, it's like staff seems to be happy, residents seem to be happy, so it looks to be a positive venture, and we just got to keep on top of it and make sure that it doesn't slip.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Neal?
I echo the other council representatives. Great presentation. I just had one question. Can you tell me approximately how many, excluding public safety, how many staff members are taking advantage of the 410 work week, and then how many are not taking advantage of it?
Ooh, that's a great question, and I can get you the exact numbers on it. Last I saw, we were somewhere hovering around 75 to 80% of staff members who are eligible to work a 410 schedule are working a 410 schedule. And most of the ones who aren't, I know the reasons that they aren't, and a lot of it is self-selection. It's that the extra 2 hours a day, the longer hours is a little bit much for some people, so they choose to work an 8 to 5.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they are aware of this option that's available to them.
Yes.
And if we need to do any additional informative, email stream to them or something. Okay, that's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. I guess I have a question. Maybe my question is for Ben as it relates to this. As a policy board, I think we need to be concerned with whether our residents are being served. And from the operational standpoint, anything that relates to the employees falls under operations, and that's city manager. And so I guess I feel like we're treading into an area that is not our direct area of responsibility, and I just want you to weigh in on that, please.
It's a partnership. It's really the simple answer of it is the council gives me outcomes to accomplish and parameters for that. And part of this was when this discussion came was there an appetite from council to actually close City Hall on Fridays and move to 410s Monday through Thursday? There wasn't an appetite to go in that direction, but then the conversation became, does council have an appetite for to see maybe extended hours at City Hall, to make the work delivery that's needed match a 410 delivery. So it's on an A-B split. And that's where the partnership comes in. So it's a partnership between my policy group and me as the city manager to implement your policy and bring you all creative solutions that can turn into win-win situations that we didn't have before, where we have overwhelming positive results from the employees who I'm responsible for, and then the residents for the council to be able to report back and say, we've enhanced hours, we've enhanced service delivery, and there's data to prove it. Because we're always going to fall back to data to remove the emotion and assumptions. And that's where this comes together. So it's that delicate balance of the partnership between the policy group and operations working together to achieve a great outcome. And that's one of the examples I see here is it's the balance of working together.
Okay, my concern is just making sure that we're not getting too far off into an area that is not ours to oversee. That's why we have you. So, all righty, thank you. Anything else? Yes, sir. Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry. All righty, thank you. Next up is item C6, update and discussion regarding the status of future multifamily development projects.
It's getting late, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. Perla Tavera, Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Planning. This is the multifamily development update. Just pretty much to give an update, this was requested by Councilwoman Tina Bennett Burton. So here's the background. I believe this was presented to you about a year ago, May 21st, 2024. This gives you the total completed as to date, under construction and proposed. For many projects, the exact construction timelines are unknown, and I think this is with the volatile interest rates that we've had in the past couple years, as well with the restrictions in a lot of the lenders. So once a site plan is approved, that is when the shot clock starts, and we've only had 2 developments apply and or request for an extension. So we kind of broke this up between east side, west side, and then the central projects. So we were able to give you guys the address, the unit count, the zoning approved, whether it's under construction and estimated completion. Here's the central area projects, and here's the west side projects. Available for any questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman, this was your request, so.
It was, as I look at these and I'm like, 12 to 15 years for full build out. I think that's where I'm struggling, is that I see in other municipalities, other cities, where they have a shorter completion time of turning dirt to the product being done. And in a state of redevelopment, which is where we're at for us specifically, 15 years isn't really viable. And so that's what I would like to see changed. I don't know if that looks like increasing the permit fee for an extension, so it kind of incentivizes them. If it looks like, I know that we put the shot clock in, that's great, but 15 years, come on, guys. That's where my struggle is with it, honestly. Because we can't, it's like, when do you know enough is enough on multifamily, especially, I don't know if everybody saw the Dallas Morning News article that came out this past weekend, which basically indicated that we've overdeveloped as far as multifamily. And so, I've asked this question of Ben multiple times. How do we know when we're in that moment? But it's hard to even extrapolate that number when you've got, construction estimations of 15 years. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Councilman Roman?
I mean, and I think maybe part of your concern is some of what we've seen happen in development here in the city. We've got something that has been zoned for an apartment or for some really tall structure, and then at some point development changes over time, and you've got homes right next to an area that has been zoned, and so by right they can build apartments, and then you have these really high overarching apartments right next to a residential, and there's nothing we can do about it. So I think your concern there is definitely heard and valid, and I have heard some concerns about some apartments in sort of the neighborhood areas. I mean, there's an apartment behind the Firehouse Theater, and I think it's in here, the Havenhurst or something like that. Um, and it's basically going to be right across the street from homes. And I wonder, how would they feel going from a 2-story apartment to a 4 or 5 or however tall that is, and that looking into these homes. And so, I'm not sure if we set certain restrictions or limits about the height allowed when a situation like that occurs, when you have apartments that are adjacent to residential homes. Because I mean, I can understand the sentiment that some people may not like for someone to look straight into their backyard. um, I get that. And while we're sort of on the discussion about apartments, one thing that I'm now seeing is lots of people parking on the streets. And I know we have a certain requirement as to how many uh, parking spaces are required for the number of either occupants that you're going to have, or uh, apartments. But I think that number probably needs to be a little bit higher, because congestion is only going to get worse. Um, I mean, that's just sort of, I'm just spitballing and thinking out loud.
Councilman Reed.
Working backwards from what you were just, yeah, I definitely understand about the parking, and I agree. I think it's like, what, 1.3 parking spots per unit. And if a lot of these are 2-3 bedrooms, looking at two adults per unit, most likely each one has a car on average. So bumping that up, I think, would make it like you said, a lot less congested, and would be beneficial. The ones that are being, or that have been built, and are being built, I'm seeing high occupancy rates for the ones that have been constructed. So we have the need for more housing. There is a lot here, though. 4,000 units. But we're going to see Dallas is going out. We're no longer rural. We're no longer, so we're moving from suburban almost to urban here in Farmers Branch. It's a tough pill for many to swallow, but it's just the need of with so many people coming into Texas. Where the DFW area, Dallas is it's one of the fastest growing places in the country. So we have to accommodate that somehow, and by providing these, not everyone right away can buy a home. Someone needs a little, not as long lasting a property, the more transitory, if they're between periods. So I think we've reached enough when we're not filling those spaces. I understand what you're saying. So I'm just kind of blabbering here, but but I see what you're saying. How can we plan if it's 12 to 15 years for full? A couple of these that are 200 units that are 15 years from now. That's one thing. If you look at the one on the west side where it's going to be 1,500 units, but it's being done in phases, and I think they're doing it properly. Because they want to construct one area, get people in there, let it settle down a little bit before they start building the next phase, before they start building, so that it grows, it grows with the community, as opposed to just throwing everything up all at once. It's going to have less of an impact on the homes around it, because there's not as much activity happening all at once. It's going to be over the course of time. So it's it seems like we have to just keep an eye on it, and as things you know, as the population changes, as density changes, all that, just keep an eye on it to make sure that some of these in the future do make sense. You know, whether we've overextended ourselves, whether, you know, if we're not filling the properties and that forces rents to go down, you know, does that mean that, you know, yeah, so it's going to be the you know, the quality of people going into the, you know, I don't want to, you know, sound negative, but, you know, some of these are looking to be higher end properties. You know, if the rents have to come down, they're no longer financially viable, you know, for the build. And that's going to be something that's going to put a restrainer on these, some of these that are 12, 15 years out, because they'll have the opportunity, hey, vacancy is low. Is it financially viable to build a building at this time? So you're going to have those natural economic limitations out there, you know, so.
And I understand that. However, if we are also trying to redevelop and it's based on density that we keep hearing about, yet the density we've planned for is just not coming. It's just not coming. So we can't get other things such as another grocery store or, you know, and those are my concerns. It's like, how long do our residents have to wait to see all of these built out to get the other things that they were promised? That's what I'm trying to weigh, especially when rents are going down now. And that was, I mean, in DFW, they're going down right over there. And I understand they were supposed to be owner occupied by Marshalls, but they're not, and they're not full. And now they've dropped rent and they have specials running because they can't get them leased. So where does that leave us? Go ahead.
Councilman Neal.
Thank you, Mayor. I too have been looking at this rather detailed because I too keep hearing the requirement for more density. But what I hear from my residents is they'd like to have some more retail. They'd like to have some more restaurants. And on the other hand, I hear that in order for us to reach that, we need to have more density. And I would like to propose that it's not necessarily only density. I think there's other factors as part of that would bring it in. So I did see the Dallas Morning News article that Councilwoman Bennett Burton had discussed, and I read through that, and I made a few notes as I was reading through that more apartments in Dallas Fort Worth have been developed since 2014 than anywhere else in the country, to the tune of 277,000 units. And as recently as 2023 and continuing into 2024, those units are only approximately 59 to 60% occupied, which falls right in line with the property there near Marshall's Barbecue, who indicated to us just last week that they're only about 60% full and that they're having to create incentives. Their article also goes on to say that concessions for months of free rent are being offered so that they're trying to fill these things. So there's just some notes. They also mentioned that in Q1 of 2025, which we're in right now, that developers are expected to cut that by at least 45,000 units because they're not able to fill the units and rent them out properly. So that's according to the article, 20,000 less units than last year. So that's like a 35% drop in the units. So I just think we need to be aware of that. So as I mentioned, I think there's more than just density here that's required for us to help our residents obtain some additional restaurants and retail. And one of those, in my view, is somewhat of the median per capita income of our residents versus our surrounding residents. Many of the residents look at Addison very quickly and consider how come they have so many restaurants and facilities such as that they can go. And I can tell you the research I've done is that their per capita income is around 63,000 a person. Whereas here in Farmers Branch, it's 45,000, which is a lot less. And I'm sure these retailers look at that kind of stuff because they're looking at expendable income that residents have in the house. Now, if you look at the overall household income, Farmers Branch is higher at about 88,000, right? And whereas Addison is between 78 and 83,000. So there's a difference from overall household income. But when you look at it per capita, half being above, half being below, it's quite a significant difference between the two. So I think that's something that retailers are considering and factoring in there. So I just wanted to point out some of that information. I also would agree that we should relook at the amount of parking that would be required on these apartments and facilities. Parking is becoming an issue and has been an issue here in the city for quite some time. Doesn't seem to be relieving itself in any way. It just seems to be getting worse. And with respect to the consideration for a height limitation, I'd be okay with that in certain areas, particularly in those residential areas. We've had several planning and zoning cases where those apartments were built quite high looking down into neighborhoods, and I wouldn't like that. I mean, I'm sure after some time you probably don't even notice it as time goes on, but I think we can be a little smarter at that. So I'd be open to an idea of having some discussion about height limitations within certain areas. Certainly, you know, in the periphery of our city, maybe it's okay to go as high 6, 8, 10, whatever height. But as we get closer to the more residential areas, I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of that. And in light of the occupancy issues that are fighting here in Dallas-Fort Worth, I don't know if we should continue with more and more apartments along the way. So as for the duration, I think it's I would agree that 7 years to do, or 10, 12 years, 10 years. I'm just looking at these 8 years to complete these complexes is just far too long in my view. I know it takes time to do a lot of planning, but I don't think for a 400 unit should take 8 years to put together. So that's just my thoughts. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
One last thing to think about is, again, going back to the economics, as referenced with interest rates. In order to get, whether it's retail, single family home, whatever, it has to be financially viable. And that's where the multifamilies come into play. That's they provide the greatest return on investment per square foot of any property. So you're going to have the builders or the developers that are more apt to look to that type of construction and more type of build out than the single families and even retail. You know, there's a lot of square footage for a retail establishment, and if the economy is just kind of chugging along, it makes it difficult for a company to invest that amount of money into a location confidently. From a city perspective, nothing produces, you know, we have to weigh the pros and cons, but nothing produces more income for the city than multifamily homes as well, from a property tax perspective. So as we kind of see in the map that's up there now, things are kind of segmented. You've got more so on the east side, which is less, you know, in less residential areas. On the west side, in less, when I say residential, I mean single family, less single family areas, and it's very sparse in the central area where it is much more of a single family specific area. So the impact of the location of these is something to consider as well.
Great. Thank you.
Perla, I have a question for you.
I'm ready.
So by the time we give economic incentives in the manner of tax abatements, in past, not necessarily currently, but in the past, where do we stand with some of the multifamilies that we have right now? Are we making the money that we think that we're making? I know that we're not. I know the answer to the question because I've
I
already
will have
looked
to
at
get you
DCAT.
that because I do not know that at the top of my head. I can
I've
tell
already
you
looked
which
at DCAT,
ones. Yeah,
so I know
same.
that.
Yeah, I can tell
So,
you that
yeah.
you're right though. The multifamily incentives have a much longer return on investment. Yeah.
Councilwoman, I think you're your general topic of your question does breed several answers. Councilman Roman touched on one particular problem of the height of some structures next to others. And that goes back to planning and zoning, being better educated, being forward thinkers, broader thinkers. Council, as we just took our little tour the other day, being educated, better educated, broader thinkers. I think we need to all be aware of this. And then, you had a huge missed opportunity here earlier this evening because you could have asked some of these questions to Lucy and Henry Billingsley, who, this is their livelihood. And, they wouldn't be building it if they didn't think they could make money. And they're entitled to make money. So, any information or education that they can share with us, I always think is a good thing. There's other builders that are in the business, and we could get a representative from JPI here, I'm sure, that could talk to us about multifamily. But I really think to just address one piece of what I think you were asking for is we need to be better educated. We as council members and planning and zoning. And whatever we can do to try to further that or enhance that, I think is to our advantage. And then we also have to be looking at other housing options also. Everything we do isn't centered around multifamily. There's residential redevelopment. There's residential programs such as our Builders of Hope program or our Dallas County Housing Replacement Program. We need to be aware of these types of opportunities, and we need to have relationships with our county or higher officials that control the purse strings related to those things. So when there's money available, when there's grants available, we're on the call list. So it's a very broad topic, and I'm all in. If we can get people that help educate us, let's get them here and have conversation. All right. Anything else?
So just in terms of like next steps and direction, what do you have on your list?
Oh, this was just asking how many multifamilies we have and how many are in construction versus entitled was pretty much the request. So there's further direction as far as you guys want more information, want me to bring some developers, that would be council's direction. But as of right now, this is more of this is what we have. This is the timeline that they're expected to build. So I'm open to more presentations.
I think I heard people say looking into additional changing the requirement for parking
and
then
height restriction.
Height restrictions.
Mm-hmm. That would be a planning and zoning, so we can definitely do that. But as far as further presentations, we'll go into the planning and zoning. Okay, great. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. Moving on, C7, discuss City of Farmers Branch owned parcels and lots.
So moving from multifamily to single family lots, this was a presentation, again, Perla Tavera, Director of Economic Development, Tourism, and Planning. This was a request from Councilman David Reid and Councilwoman Tina Bennett Burton. This was requesting how many residential lots are owned by the City of Farmers Branch. So this started City of Farmers Branch back in 1990s, ended up buying some of these parcels known as a neighborhood renaissance program. And it's been rebooted throughout the time, buying dilapidated homes and selling them for actual single family homes. So back in 2019, there was a target area, and that was the Valwood area. And that's when City Council decided to work with Builders of Hope for a workforce development of homes under 1,800 square feet. 5 parcels were actually sold to Builders of Hope in 2023. And the homes are actually scheduled to be completed relatively soon. And so today I'm just asking for additional direction regarding any of the other residential lots within the Valwood area.
Can I take exception with your slide?
Oh, which one?
Right where you are.
This one? Sure.
Yep. I didn't think the Builders of Hope program was for low-income housing program. It was to build attainable housing, and there's a difference. And so I just want to make that distinction because I believe it's very important to what we're trying to do.
I apologize. That was my
No,
fault.
I'm
Yeah,
just-
attainable.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, for direction, I'm just asking for today. So this is some of the Builders of Hope renderings, actual homes for the attainable housing. And so again, I'm just asking for questions and direction regarding this city-owned lots. If we want to continue the program, if we want to extend the program, or just what would you like me to do with these lots?
Councilman Reed, you and Councilwoman Bennett requested this.
Yeah, I want to get an idea of how many residential lots do we currently own, and what is the timeline on construction for Builders of Hope home? Do we have that?
Those 5, they should be completed. Good thing we have Builders of Hope here. So they should be completed, I believe, James, within, oh wait, Chris, 2 months. Oh, 2 weeks. See, there you go.
2 weeks to build a home?
Oh no, they're oh, the completion was so. Well, no, that was it's about we're looking at 2 years because from the time we sold them, by the time we did the PSA, by the time everything, so by the time the agreement, the fact that they're about to be pretty much move-in ready is about 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Are you asking about actual home construction?
Yeah, home for the if we're looking to.
Oh, the
You know,
home
if
construction,
the-
you guys did it within 12 to 14 months. Am I wrong? Oh, here's Chris.
Yeah, it's basically if we're looking to extend the program, just get an idea of, okay, we've got 5 homes now that are near completion, near move-in. So if we decide to pull the trigger and extend the program, what would be the timeline for the next set of homes?
Got you, Chris Lewis, Chief Officer Real Estate Development for Builders of Hope, 603 Munger Avenue, Suite 100, Dallas, Texas, 75202. So, Councilmember Reed, to answer your question, the first phase is to build 5 homes. Since then, we have 3 completed, and all 3 have been sold. The next 2, which is 2629 Squire and 2560 Wicker Avenue, should be completed within the next 2 weeks. So we started construction around the end of July, beginning of August of last year. So about 4.5 months to 5 months is our total build time.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said between 4.5 to 5 months has been our total build time.
Build time
for 5 homes.
For 5 homes, excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman.
Okay, so according to the map, and I know it hasn't been checked, there are 20 on here, 20 lots.
Correct.
So 5 went to Builders of Hope.
Those 5 are not included on there. Those
The
are
5 are not included
Correct.
on here.
Mhm.
So we have 20 more.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other HUD program that we have, how many are included in that?
Dallas replacement was 10 homes, but it's still going to be a parcel, so that's an
Right.
addition.
Okay. So effectively, we still have 20 lots left.
Correct.
It looks like 5 of them are in my district and the rest are in Councilman Roman's. So, and it took them, we'll say 5 months, 6 if you want to include our part in this. We're switching 10 with them. So that's effectively 10 more that they're going to have, still leaving us 20. Follow me on the math here. And we don't know where those other 10 lots will be because that's a whole different program that we're moving them out of. Have we allotted to them the other 10 lots, or are we doing that as HUD, as somebody applies for HUD and gets approved through that and they choose that lot? How is that working?
As far as we've allotted to Builders of Hope,
Like, are there specific lots for that?
there are
like-
specific and they're not included on there.
And
So
they're-
some of the individuals wanted to stay within their parcel, so it's demolishing and building it, and some didn't. So, but it would be a swap. You take
Right.
one of the part, correct?
Right.
But they're still within. Sorry, I would say they're still within the Valwood area.
Okay. And we've not made any decisions on what to do with the following 20 lots.
Correct.
So we're looking for direction.
I'm asking for direction.
Okay. This is probably the Builders of Hope question now. So it took you 2 years beginning to end for, say, 5 lots, 5 months to build. Are we still looking at a 2-year lead time, or since we're into the program, would it go more quickly?
James Armstrong, President, CEO of Builders of Hope, CDC.
603 Munger Avenue, Dallas, Texas, 75202. You can tell we do this all the time. Thank you for your question, Councilwoman. So we just completed a project in Dallas that were 20 lots, and we did it in a year. So we could do 20 lots in a year's time.
Okay. Because I remember when we first started, the reason we only gave you 5 was we wanted to see how this project went.
Right.
I remember the words distinctly.
Absolutely.
Councilman Roman, what are your thoughts on this? And it's your district too.
I mean, I think, we've had lots of conversations with the Builders of Hope. I think they've proven themselves to be great advocates for the community, for exactly what we're trying to achieve in that community, and they're listening to them. And I think there's more conversations to come with residents, but I think they've been great partners, and I think we should continue down the path of working with them. And I think maybe part of the reason the 2-year process happened, and if we want to shorten the time span, I would say that, we, instead of selling tranches of lots to them, if we sold the lots to them all in one, it probably would make the process quicker, because we sort of bottleneck the process, because then it has to come to council. There's a discussion, and there's changing of hands of the deed and all of that. And it might, right? That's part of the holdup. And so I think if we're thinking about what's going to make this process much quicker, it's to divest ourselves of the properties completely and allow them to do their thing.
And council, if I may, last time it was 2 years, but 6 months was in design here at City Hall. The project was held up.
I do recall that.
Yep.
I think we're just,
Microphone.
let's be done with it. If this is painful. Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Councilman Neal?
Just a couple of thoughts. As I understood when this Builders of Hope program was initiated, kicked off, one of the main incentives or the intention of the program was to help redevelop or initiate some redevelopment in that area to invigorate the area. And now that we've had 5 homes built, how long was it going to take us to determine if that actual redevelopment is decided to sort of kick in gear? I assume that's going to take 5, 10, who knows, 15 years. But how do we know that this project we're doing is invigorating the redevelopment that we've so desired here? Can you?
Yeah, no, great question. I would say the dilapidated home that already automatically reignited it. The fact that we had an improvement value of $60,000 home that had several code violations. So the demolition and it going with Builders of Hope, that was an automatic, I would say within a year investment, return on investment.
I just have a hard time explaining to my residents that we're giving these, not giving, but we're selling these lots for a big reduction, which is the tax money that was used when we purchased the lots was their residents' money. And while I understand the idea here that we want to incentivize and redevelop, it's just very challenging to explain to residents that we're just giving $50,000, $100,000 of immediate equity away, which is basically giving them their tax money that they've had. So can you help me understand how I might be able to explain to the residents? I realize that we will get some increased tax revenue over the time. How long does that take? How many more houses would we expect to sort of automatically redevelop outside of the Builders of Hope program?
I can get you the numbers, but I would say several of those homes that were demolished did have code enforcement violations. They had some liens on them, so we weren't necessarily earning any property tax from it. But I can give you a long-term return on investment on it.
If you could come back with that information, that'd be
absolutely.
helpful too. It's just very challenging for me to have the city working in the real estate business. I just a little bit uncomfortable with the city in real estate to begin with. So, but
thank you.
That's just a comment. So, thank you.
James, you have something you want to add?
Councilman, thank you for your question, and I definitely understand and see the perspective. Why would a city discount lots, sort of land bank lots, and what is the return on that?
I would say it's a couple of folds. Number one, um, when you sell the lot to an organization like BOH, it really is an investment, and it should really be looked at that way. We could buy the lots at market value, but then the sales price would have to reflect that, right? So the last time I checked, land values were right about 150. Typically, lot cost is about 20% of development cost. So we're looking at $600,000 homes, based upon lot cost of what the value is. If you look at the medium income in the Valwood Park neighborhood, you would automatically see that that price point is not attainable for residents in that neighborhood. And so I really would challenge the city council to look at it as an investment, to assure that you are a city that has makes places and spaces for families of all incomes. Uh, Secondly, these homes, although we get the lot at a reduced sales price, and although we sell it at a reduced sales price, the value of the homes about over $500,000. So that is sort of the city's return on their investment, right? When you're able to sell a lot at a discounted amount, but then receive the tax revenue on a home as if you sold the lot at full market value. So those are the two things that I would recommend. Also, just general update to the quality of life of the neighborhood. I think that that is also something that could be mentioned. But I would encourage the council to see it as an investment. We have no problem buying them at market value if we're not capped at the sales price. But it would kind of defeat the purpose of the program.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
I
sir.
understand. As I mentioned, the incentive for us doing this program was to stimulate redevelopment there beyond and outside of your program of Builders of Hope. And I'm trying to determine, is that happening? Is it not happening? It sounds like we have a little bit, maybe. So I realize we're going to get the increased tax revenue from the homes you're doing. I also have to look at how long does it take for us to recoup the reduced amount that we sort of lost, so to speak, when we gave it to a reduced, how long does it take to recover it in a tax revenue basis to become,
Yeah.
so
And there's
that's
a
all.
general policy, a general idea of community development, neighborhood development, is when you fix up your house, that it encourages your neighbors to fix up their houses. And that's what we would hope to see, is sort of this ripple effect in the neighborhood. Even if the neighbors aren't getting a new home, that maybe they're cutting their grass more, or they get their house painted, or,
So are we seeing that, Ben? Or I don't know who to ask. Are we seeing that kind of thing? Because that's really exactly what we're trying to accomplish here. So
I can
and
definitely go
can you
around
get
and
some
see, but
information or share something in that?
I will say, when I went door to door knocking for the Dallas replacement, there was some that had remodeled. So I'm more than happy to go do that again and take the pictures. But I can do the exact same spreadsheet that I did for the demo rebuild for this as well.
Great. The other thing I'd like to discuss briefly is parking. That particular area of town is really challenged with parking. And I really appreciate how Builders of Hope has built the 2-car garage in the front, allowing to get at least 4 vehicles off the road. I think that goes a long way to do that. Is it your intent to continue that sort of thing? Because we do have a parking problem here in the city with residential.
Yes, Councilwoman Neal. Kind of two parts of the program with the home replacement program. If we move forward with that, it's a requirement to do a 2-car garage. At least from my perspective so far, the homes that we sold, you can at least put 6 cars, 2 in the drive, actually inside the garage, and at least 4 in the drive approach. So yes.
Thank you. And this question might be for Councilman Reed, since you're in the real estate. How is the real estate business in the next, say, 2 to 3 years, with interest rates being what they are, and how that might impact, say, a potential sales of these homes if we give them another 5, 10, or 20 lots? Is it going to be very challenging to sell them or not? I don't know.
Unfortunately, my crystal ball is in the shop. If I knew that,
I only have to rely on the experts as best as they can.
I know what you're saying, but we have no idea where interest rates are going to go. The thing is, the market is getting a little hotter. We're beyond the election. We're beyond the holidays. We're starting to see inventory pick up. We're starting to see demand pick up. So at least for 2025, it's expected to be a warmer market than 2024 was. 2024 is one of the worst markets from total units sold in a while. Granted, the Dallas, the DFW area is more immune to the ups and downs of the overall market because of the diversity, the business diversity of the area. So with that being said, the expectation is that sales are going to increase, home prices are going to increase, you know, on a normal, 3 to 5% over the course of a year appreciation. So that's what I'm reading now. Who knows? There's so much going on in the world. Who knows what's going to happen with interest rates, things along those lines. So that's where we are at this point. One question I do have is I would like to see the cost, like a cost benefit analysis for the home. Reason being, if it's, I understand, use rough numbers, $500,000 home that's selling for $350,000. A savvy home buyer would go to DCAD when their taxes come out, show what they paid for the home, and so their initial tax rate would be set at that $350,000. But even with homestead, if the appraisal is going to increase, there's a good chance that those taxes are going to go up 10% per year. So one of the things is, if it's someone who's getting into a low price home, when do taxes become unmanageable for them? On top of the big increase that we're experiencing in insurance. Secondly, since it's starting at such a low point, taxes are based on that $350,000, not the $500,000. What is basically our take from a property tax perspective? How does that compare to the hit that we're taking on the lots and the expenses there? Just to have a side by side comparison.
Yep, I can definitely get to that.
Councilman? I will add also that maybe it was a year or so ago, maybe less than a year, we had a conversation about what to do with some of them, and we had a test lot that we put in the market, and we sold it for, I believe, market value, right?
The test lot, we've had 0 offers on it. We haven't sold it yet.
But it was on the market for
It has been
market
on the market.
value, and there were deed
There
restrictions
was
on it.
correct.
Okay, and there was no interest.
Correct.
So I think we've tried different ways to try and be responsible with the growth that goes on in that area by doing that. And the reality is that I mean, for us to recoup our full market value, I don't think it's gonna happen if we want to be responsible with the growth that's going on there. I mean, if we want to have that neighborhood look and what Branch Crossing experienced, and push all the people there out, and tax them out, then sell them for market value with no deed restrictions, and then you get your money back. But in turn, you end up pushing the people there out because you start building mini McMansions. And I think that's the problem we were trying to alleviate. Do I think that the city should have been involved in buying properties and playing a real estate dealer? No, but it was a problem that was created, according to your presentation, back in the 2000s. And here we are left with a situation where it's going to have a really deep and significant impact on the people if it continues in the way that it originally did. So in terms of return on investment, I think you're going to get a really bad return on investment. I think it's going to take you a very long time to recoup your tax dollars if you're looking at it. And I think just as many residents might say, well, why did my tax dollars pay for that? That might be a conversation for the people who were elected in 2008. But just as many residents are probably who live in my neighborhood that I represent are probably in favor of it. And we saw them through those who attended the most recent presentation of people asking for a program like this to kind of find that missing middle of housing that they can actually afford. And it is these are homes that are intended for people who are in the city. There is a list of 300 already of people who are interested in buying these homes, but the people who are going to be prioritized are the people who are have some connection or who live in Farmers Branch. So it's for the Farmers Branch residents. It's not that we're investing money and it's going to go to somebody who might live in a completely different city. It's a reinvestment for somebody who has lived here, who has um, who wants something, who wants an easier home to live in. And I think in terms of the impact that it's going to have to encourage people to remodel their homes, to paint their house, to pave their driveways again, to make significant improvements to their home. Um, I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to wait and see if it's going to happen. I think probably the only person who might have experience and can compare this to a neighborhood similar to Farmers Branch or the Bellwood Park area would be probably James, and comparing it to West Dallas and seeing some of the progress that's been made there. I mean, have you seen sort of an ascent of people trying to, who didn't participate in this program, wanting to make improvements to their home because now their neighbors got this really nice home and they might feel like they want to fit into the neighborhood. There's that feeling of wanting to fit in. Have you seen that?
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor Pro Tem. What we've seen is just a reimagining of how people treat homes, right? Um, when you see other investments coming in the neighborhood, you realize that your home is also your investment. So is this play to protect that investment? Um, and again, you know, these homes will outlive most of us, right? These are 40, 50, 60, 80-year-old homes that'll last that long. And so it's really difficult to attempt to recapture your investment in 10 years, right? But another way to look at it is, can my police officer at Farmers Branch afford to live in my city? And do you want to be a city where people can work here but can't afford to live here? And that was the point of the program, right? There's tons of research that says people that live where they work, police officers, servicemen that live where they work, it creates a better neighborhood, creates a better environment. And so, again, I would challenge the council to look at the return of investment more than just dollars and cents, because it really does pay off in the long run.
Yeah. And I think, and by the way, just to kind of share some of my research of what I've done, um, just exploring other options and seeing what else can we do, right? We can sell these properties, but it's going to displace people if we sell them at market value and let people build whatever they want. We can put a deed restriction. We tried that, it didn't work, and selling it for market value. We can try and I part of the reason why I wanted to go, not entirely or not a large portion, but a small piece of the reason why I wanted to go to the International Economic Development Conference with Perla last fall was because I wanted to see what other people are doing. And let me just tell you, some of the other initiatives that people are implementing across the world are nothing compared to what Builders of Hope are doing. I've met with an individual who came out, he drove 9 hours to come and meet me at the Starbucks here, who has a company from the Netherlands, and they are wanting to build sort of sustainable homes and can do it at a really great price. But the reality is that their model really didn't work with what we wanted, because for them to be profitable, these homes have to be right next to each other, because they require equipment, to like large equipment, to be able to build these homes in the way that they build them. And so it wasn't going to work. Other places, it's a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and really that's not, I don't think that's the product that Farmers Branch would want to build. Another one was building kind of duplexes, but it doesn't really fit for what we're doing either. That was something that was done somewhere in New York. I mean, none of the other things that I explored, none of the people who I talked to from Florida to California to Illinois to Indiana. None of them had a program that was necessarily comparable to exactly what Builders of Hope was doing, and I have looked. Because I wanted to make sure that when I have a conversation with a resident who says, you know, our city shouldn't be involved in this business, I say to them, well, you're right, but we have no other option. We have to divest of these properties at some point, and we have to do it in a responsible way. And I've done all this research and talked to staff members from all across the country, but somehow I haven't been able to find something that is doing exactly what they're doing and is working with our residents to figure out what they want. And so that's why I've very quickly got behind Builders of Hope, because I did my research and there's nothing out there that's better. And I think that it would be the best option would be to divest ourselves of all of the properties and allow them to do their thing. And, you know, depending on more feedback that we'll end up getting with residents, maybe we'll have a conversation about what the appropriate pricing is. Because one of the things I heard from the meeting was people were looking for something that was a little bit more affordable. Now, if that's what people would want based off of the feedback we're getting from residents, then maybe it looks like reducing the selling price of the home. But I think that's a conversation for another day. But I think Builders of Hope is going to be the organization that's going to be able to reimagine that neighborhood and do it in a respectful way that doesn't displace people. So that's it.
James. So you guys, and this may be for the other gentleman, but you guys guide the residents through the process of home ownership. You help them with the financing and define the financing to get the best rates, grants, everything, correct?
Correct.
So that does mitigate some of it. But as far as DCAD, the land value is the land value.
Correct.
You can only negotiate and argue the improvement, which is capped at 350.
That is correct.
Correct.
Yes.
So we get the taxes on the land value regardless.
That is correct.
Whether we sell it to you for 100,000 or whatever that land value is, which is right about probably 150 in that area. That's what we're getting the taxes on.
Correct. Right.
Thank you.
Also, to Council Member Neal's point, one thing that we can do is work on a tiered system to where the higher the sales price, the more we pay for the lot, and create an affordability to where if the buyer decides to sell it, that the portion of the equity that they earned goes back to the city. So that is another way for the city to get reimbursed on their investment. And I'll just sit down after this. One of our most recent contracts was a gentleman who's living with his parents in another part of Farmers Branch, Latino. He and his fiance, they're about to have their first kid. And they lived with their parents, with his parent, for a couple of years, not wanting to move out because they wanted to be in Farmers Branch. And he got his wish. So that family who's been in Farmers Branch for 20 years, now the son gets to live in the city that he loves because of this program. So that's the impact that the program is having.
I don't want to belabor this point, but I'll just say the comment that was made, let's get on with it or let's get rid of them. I think we have to be very strategic about what we want to do. Anybody who's heard me talk, I talk about housing disparity in the city because we have one area of our city that's on fire. We have one area that's not. And I think we have an obligation to make sure that we have housing diversity, but that it's responsible housing diversity or diverse housing stock that meets the needs of many. And that's what we've been trying to do. I wasn't around when the program was created, but from 2016 on, I was well familiar with what was going on. And so and that was well before we got involved with Builders of Hope. So I want to be careful. I want to make sure that we're preserving the integrity of neighborhoods and not running anybody out of the city. that's important. Our city's gone through bad PR in the past. We're trying to do something, we're investing in the city, reinvesting in the city for a very specific purpose. And I think that helps our image. The other thing I am trying to do in regards to all of this is I'm working with Commissioner Summerman, and I told him I want more money. Okay, we got $2.5 million, and I'll take more. So he's helping. He's trying to fight a battle for us because Pearlie, you got 10 signed up, and that was pretty impressive. They didn't think we would do it.
We actually got 13.
And so I hope that we can set the example for the rest of Dallas County as it relates to that. So I'm very excited about that. So I want to get us moving along here because it's getting late. So anyway, anything else?
Yes.
Do you have your, oh, sorry, go.
No, I was just going to ask Perla, could you get us the cost of what the city's paid for those 20 lots? And then if you have any idea what they'd be sold to the Builders of Hope, so we can get it.
We'll do exactly
some
like
more
I did the
numbers.
demo rebuild with a return on investment on the bottom. Yep.
Okay, and if it's the will of the council, could we consider maybe an overlay to prevent McMansions in certain areas of town? Is it something we can take
It's
up?
on the future agenda item list.
Great, that's perfect.
So I think my direction is to landlock the 20 lots.
To
And then
Builders of Hope.
To
That's
Builders
what I
of Hope, correct.
think so.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Is the direction to landlock the 20 lots in the Valwood area to Builders of Hope.
I'd like to see the numbers first.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I'll get those to you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much. Next up is C8. Receive an update from the mayor and council members regarding board liaison information from outside organizations and other meetings attended. Councilman Roman?
I'm good, thanks.
Councilwoman Van? Councilman Reed?
I just want to say that the mayor and I had the privilege of going to the ribbon cutting for the Expo Home improvement business on Diplomat Drive. It was a great event. They're a faith-based company that is charity in nature. They have a home improvement aspect to them where they do renovations of bathrooms, kitchens, windows, stuff like that. But then from that, they have a cafe that they contribute the proceeds to charities, and a bunch of other aspects to their business that are charity oriented. So it was a great addition to the city. They're very welcome business from many perspectives, and I was glad that they chose Farmers Branch.
Thank you. Councilman Neal? Okay. I'll only add to that. We had the Metroplex Mayor's meeting, and I think we're going to have some very interesting topics coming up in the future. The meeting last week had to do with AI and city's use of AI in putting information out to the public. And then Chief McCoy and I had the pleasure of serving as judges on Saturday for the Brookhaven Country Club annual chili cook-off. And we were joined by Mayor Arfston from Addison, Chris Freeze, their police chief, and then Chief Arredondo from Carrollton. We had a lot of fun. There were a lot of residents out there because the weather got nice and everybody decided to come out. So it was a very good time. We appreciate that. Next up is C9. We review and discuss future agenda items. Councilman Roman?
I'm good, thank you.
Councilwoman Bennett?
Discuss city holidays for the staff.
Okay. Councilman Reed?
That was one I was going to do. I'd like to get, I think we talked about an update on Mercer Park, where it stands from a construction perspective. Additionally, and this can be in a memo form, what's happening at the intersection of Denton and Valley View in regards to lanes, lighting, or the traffic lights, all that, as things change, especially on weekends when we have a lot events over at the Star Center. there's a lot of backlog, especially on Denton going north. So just some sort of status on that.
Okay. Councilman Neal,
Ben, this is for you. You have a sharp pencil.
how many? Do I need a new sheet of paper?
So I gave you 5 items last time, and I'm going to spare you tonight and save the other 3 for next time. Okay.
All right. Seeing no other business for this evening, we will adjourn at 9:25. Thank you all very much for attending.